Chapter 51. The next day, early in the morning. Yu got up early, and after making simple food for several Pokémons, he began to take care of himself. He combed his messy hair in front of the mirror and looked at his appearance through the mirror. He is 1.75 meters tall, which is relatively tall among his peers at the age of 17. He still has room for growth in the future. Although he is not handsome, his delicate temperament combined with his tender face is very lovable. When he smiles, he is no different from an ordinary trainer, but once he is expressionless, the fierceness revealed in his eyes is enough to make people shudder. On Yu's face, there is no passion and recklessness that belongs to this age. "Little Eevee, let's go." Yu called, let little Eevee jump on his shoulder, checked his belongings, and left the room. In the restaurant of the Pokémon Center, after finishing the free breakfast, Yu smiled and greeted Joey-chun at the front desk, noticing a somewhat gloomy expression on the other person's face. Yu pretended not to see it and left the Pokémon Center directly. Walking towards the direction of the trainer school along the way, he met some enthusiastic passers-by who greeted him, and Yu responded one by one. Coming to this luxurious school again, Yu still felt a little dazed. It was not because of how luxurious this school was, but because the slum he just passed by was only half an hour away from this school. It was hard for Yu to imagine a magnificent luxury school and a dirty and messy slum. How did they appear in the same city at the same time? And they were so close? The appearance of the slum just now was still in his mind, and the contrast between the two was so great that Yu felt a little emotional. But there was no time to think about everything, and he was soon welcomed in by the staff of the school. The students on campus looked at Yu curiously. Yu attracted the love of many girls. So much so that he heard some outrageous words. "Wow, little Eevee is so cute." "Yeah, you think it's cute too. I'll ask my grandfather to buy me one when I go back." "Don't worry, you two don't have to worry. There are many Pokémons in my breeding base. Come to me after school to choose and I'll give you two for free." Yu felt a little uncomfortable when he heard these students call precious Pokémons worthless green caterpillars on the roadside. This world is too twisted in his opinion. Children in the Pokémon world will learn about Pokémons when they are 12 years old and their minds are relatively mature. They will not receive their first Pokémons until they are 16 years old. After that, they are divided into travel faction and academic faction. The academic faction is just like the students in this school. Most people are unwilling to go out for adventure. They can study in school by relying on their identity or paying a large sum of money. As long as you can graduate successfully, you can participate in the league conference with the recommendation letter of the school, and you don't need to collect badges. In addition to some elites, the traveling faction is mostly civilians like the Shorts Boy and the Bug Catcher. Among these trainers who are stuck in the quagmire, only a few can get rid of the predicament, rise straight up, and stand out from many civilian trainers. Most people will die in the wild adventure. Even if they can be safe, they will face the reality after wasting some time. Of course, there are also very few people who are unwilling to resist the solid system set by the League and become a member of an underground dark organization, or a Pokémon hunter smuggling between various regions and cities. In this twisted world, the underground dark road is a rare road that can cross classes. After all, most people can't afford to raise Pokémons. Even if you buy the lowest level green caterpillar, you only need a few thousand League coins. But the subsequent cost of raising and training is the big head, which is often several times the value of the Pokémon itself. It is not a skill to be able to afford a Pokémon, but it is to be able to afford it. Is this world fair? It seems to be seen in the laws of the Alliance. Some trainers with family backgrounds have planned their paths early. Starting from the age of 6, a deposit of 200,000 yuan per year until the age of 16 can obtain the status of the Alliance's direct lineage and a starter Pokémon. These people may join the school to study or travel in the wild, and eventually they will become the backbone of the Alliance. Another nail is added to the unbreakable system of the Alliance, and it is nailed firmly. Yu looked at this group of students with enthusiastic smiles, and recalled the beggars who were about to starve to death in the slums when he came here just now. Yu had no pity in his heart, let alone jealousy. He just felt lucky. He was lucky that he had the memory of his past life and could read. He was lucky that he could become a pirate instead of living a life of mediocrity under the oppression of the Alliance. He was lucky that he could meet Mrs. Meta, successfully become her apprentice, and obtain the most precious thing in this world, knowledge. He was lucky that he saved Xiao Ao, won the appreciation of Mr. Kyun Lee, obtained the investment of Chinju Jim, and broke the information blockade of ordinary trainers by the Alliance. He was lucky that he successfully caught the attention of the Joey family, obtained the investment, and boarded the shaky ship of the Alliance. Even though the ship looked rotten, it was still amazingly solid and sailed steadily on the sea. Ibrahimovic. The cry of the little Ibrahimovic made Hayu recover and continue to follow the guidance of the staff in front. As he walked into the center of the school, some buildings that he had no permission to visit last time gradually came into view. A road stretched out, with a large flower bed on both sides, planted with some flowers that exuded a strange smell. Hayu even saw 1 or 2 rare medicinal herbs in it, and he had the urge to pick them. In the middle, there was a huge fountain, a huge Lottie Kappa statue was spewing water, and a few loving fish could be vaguely seen in the pool. Finally, Hayu was led to a luxuriously decorated teaching building. The overall style was grey, which seemed to be very consistent with the decoration style of Kana's city. The little Ibrahimovic in Hayu's arms looked around curiously, with his little head sticking out, and a pair of smart big eyes rolling around. "Sir, your Ibrahimovic is really well cultivated." This road seemed to be very long and there was no end. The staff leading the way in front seemed to feel bored, looked at Hayu behind him, and talked to him. Hayu glanced at the middle-aged man in front with a little surprise. He didn't expect that a staff member here also knew how to cultivate. "Should I say this, it is indeed a trainer school?" "No, you are too kind. I have worked here for more than 10 years, and I have learned a little bit of Pokémon knowledge." Hayu nodded in understanding, looking at the end of the passage that was gradually approaching, thinking about something in his heart. Chapter 52. After bringing Hayu to the location, the staff left. Knock, knock, knock. Hayu took a deep breath and slowly knocked on the door of the office. Then, an old voice came from inside. "Come in." Hayu stretched out his hand and pushed open the quaint wooden door, and a faint fragrance came to his nose. An office full of bookish atmosphere came into view, with bookshelves inlaid on the walls on both sides, and countless books were neatly arranged. The room gave people an elegant feeling, and sitting at the desk was a bald, hunchbacked old man. When the old man in a black short robe saw Hayu walk into the room, his dead fish-like eyes slowly raised. "Are you the breeder recommended by Xiao Duwan?" the hunchbacked old man asked with a pout. Hayu replied very respectfully, "Yes, Grandpa, my name is Hayu, and I am a junior breeder." Hayu keenly realized that the old man's identity was not ordinary through the way he addressed Duwan. If he was just an ordinary principal, how could he address a gym owner so casually? "Hehe, don't bother with me, an old man, half of my body is almost buried in the ground." The hunchbacked old man waved his hand and sneered. But even so, Hayu was still very respectful, standing quietly by the door, not daring to step in again. Although he sensed a trace of old age in the old man, the power he showed in his gestures was obvious, not that of an ordinary person. That was the majesty that belonged to the superior. Hayu's ability to read people's expressions was self-proclaimed to be better than his talent as a trainer or even a breeder. Click! Just when the atmosphere in the room was strangely silent, the door behind him opened again. Duwan walked in slowly, and Hayu's eyes were a little turbulent. Before he could speak, Duwan, who was usually reserved and dignified, trotted towards the old man. "Grandpa Mutuo, why didn't you eat the breakfast made for you in the cafeteria? This is not good for your stomach. When will your body recover its vitality?" Duwan helped the old man sit up with a worried look on her face, and she didn't forget to blame him in a low voice. "Hey, little Duwan is not busy with the gym, why do you care about me, an old man?" The hunchbacked old man showed his few yellow teeth, and his voice was very hoarse. Hayu listened to the conversation between the two, and soon, the two left the room one after another. As Duwan slowly closed the door, she whispered to Hayu, "Grandpa Mutuo is the former owner of Kana's gym, and also the teacher who helped me." Hayu finally understood, and subconsciously turned his head to look at the quaint wooden door. He had a new understanding of the old man who was full of twilight in his heart. Then, Hayu was led by Duwan to another teaching building. Students passing by all greeted Duwan along the way. The students in our school are mainly divided into 3 levels, elementary, intermediate and advanced. Generally speaking, they enter school at the age of 16 and graduate at the age of 19, and directly participate in the Alliance Conference. And the school uniforms you see are white, grey and black, representing the 3 grades. Of course, some stupid students will repeat a grade. Du Wan was very considerate to explain to He Yu the various precautions for going to other people's schools. You are a temporary training teacher this time, and the main teaching direction is also biased towards training Pokémons. As they walked to a beautiful classroom, Du Wan gave a final reminder. This is the list of students in your next class. He Yu took a list and found that there were only a dozen students after a simple check. The trainer school still implements elite education. Looking at the correct house number and class number above his head, He Yu sorted out his feelings. Some of the students here are even 1 year older than him, and now he has to teach them. He Yu didn't know how to describe this feeling. Pushing the door with a little expectation and nervousness, a dozen curious eyes were cast in an instant. Counting the number of people calmly, He Yu showed a gentle smile and said slowly, "Hello, from today on, I will be your temporary training class teacher for the next week." As soon as the voice fell, someone below raised his hand instantly. He Yu looked closely and felt that this person was familiar. After thinking carefully, he remembered that this was the student who frequently mocked him when he came to fight Du Wan last time. It seems that his name is Feng Chen, and it seems that he has some background. He Yu remained calm on the surface and gestured to the other party to speak. "Teacher, how old are you this year?" Feng Chen asked with a suspicious look on his face. "Just turned 17 not long ago." He Yu continued to maintain a standard smile on his face. But when he said this, the dozen or so students present they were shocked and looked at the teacher who was about the same age as them. "Really? Teacher, you look very young. Are you sure you can teach us knowledge?" Feng Chen's face was full of provocation, and his words were full of doubt. He Yu narrowed his eyes and looked at the student who had repeatedly provoked him, and a hint of murderous intent emerged in his heart. Although he was a kind-hearted genius breeder in the eyes of outsiders, he never forgot his old profession. Pirate. A profession that buried countless corpses on the seabed. It's so troublesome to take the Alliance Road. Everything is bound. If it was on the sea, he would have killed him long ago. He Yu slowly calmed down his murderous aura in his heart, and maintained a smile on the surface. Some other students also watched the good show at this moment, and wanted to see how this young teacher would respond. He Yu slowly walked down the podium, walked to Feng Chen's side, picked up the book on the table and rolled it into a tube. Pa! It hit Feng Chen's forehead directly. "You!" Before Feng Chen could finish his curse, He Yu said first, "Next time, call me teacher with respect. This is the minimum respect for a scholar who teaches you knowledge." Feng Chen was born in a family, and he was fearless in school, so the teachers had to give him some respect. When had he ever been treated like this? How dare a little trainer offend me like this? Let me tell you, our family is... Before he could finish his words, He Yu's cold eyes swept over him, frightening Feng Chen so much that his hair stood on end. He Yu was born a pirate, and he had a fierceness and tyranny in his bones, but everything was hidden. Once released, this group of second-generation people who only knew how to enjoy themselves could not bear it. After He Yu gave Feng Chen another small lesson, he slowly walked up to the podium again, picked up the brush and wrote 2 big words on the curtain. "He Yu. This is my name. I am a junior breeder. I can teach you breeding knowledge, more than enough." As soon as these words came out, the eyes of more than a dozen students below widened instantly. Some of them were from local big families, and some were from other regions and cities. But they all received an order from their families recently to win over a breeder named He Yu. They also heard some news that a genius had passed the assessment of a junior breeder at the age of 17. Unexpectedly, He Yu was the plain-looking boy of the same age in front of them. No, he is now a teacher of the same age. Chapter 53. Everyone was dumbfounded, especially Feng Chen. In his eyes, He Yu was just a pretty boy who defeated teacher Du Wan by taking advantage of his tricks. He didn't expect that he was the genius breeder who made a lot of noise. The family sent me a message before, asking me to find an opportunity to win him over. Feng Chen's face turned green, and he sat in a chair in a daze. Although he came from a big family, and there was also a Bani, one of the 4 heavenly kings in the Hone region. But he was just a side branch of the family, otherwise he would not have come to the trainer school. If possible, who would not want to stay at the headquarters of the family and enjoy superior resources? Now his mind was spinning rapidly, thinking about how to deal with the family when he returned. Although the family is based on blood ties and can unite all the members at critical moments, it also has rules and regulations. Feng Chen was sweating profusely at this moment, especially the look that He Yu gave him just now, which flashed a dangerous light. It was a look he had never seen before. Yu ignored him and opened the textbook seriously. After a brief glance, he decided to start explaining. What we are going to talk about today is the origin and development of energy cubes. Speaking of energy cubes, we have to mention a profession: breeder. This profession did not appear many years ago. Yu began to teach this group of students. During the class, he took out the badge of the junior breeder and hung it on his chest. This aroused the envy and surprise of the students. Although they could do well after graduation, they were still a little behind a junior breeder. After all, there are many people here who just want to get by, and they know their own weight. A breeder has a lot to do. In addition to formulating breeding plans for different Pokémons and making exclusive energy blocks for specific Pokémons, they also need to learn certain nursing and medical knowledge, certain Pokémon physiological massage knowledge, etc., etc., etc. The most basic item for making energy blocks is tree fruit. Tree fruit farming is a complicated course, because the color of the tree fruit planted is different according to different soils and temperatures, and their effects are naturally different. For example, red cones have a pungent taste and are generally used to make energy blocks for healing injuries. Yellow cones have a refreshing taste and are generally used to make energy blocks for restoring physical strength. Yu said with a dry mouth, and picked up the water cup next to the water dispenser and filled a glass of water. Hey! After drinking it, there was a sweet feeling. After tasting it carefully, it seemed that some kind of nutrient solution was added to it. I have to say that the wealth of the trainer school is so great that just the public water dispenser is so different. Ahem, your task today is to write a paper about tree fruits. Whether it is tree fruit cultivation, tree fruit use, or even the history and anecdotes about tree fruits, give it to me before class tomorrow, and I will comment on it on the spot in class. After saying that, Yu put away the textbooks on the table and left the classroom directly. And a few seconds after he left, the whole classroom suddenly erupted in heated discussions. It is obvious that the news that the genius trainer Yu came to their school as a temporary teacher will soon spread throughout the school. Yu walked in the school corridor, looking at the message sent by Joey Jun in the illustrated book, and he was completely relieved. This Feng Chen is really looking for death. It turns out that he is a side branch that is not valued by the family. In the future, if there is a chance, we can plan something. The reason why Yu dared to put on airs with this group of second generations on the spot was, first, because he had the support of the Joey family and Chinju Jim behind him. Second, he recently gained the title of a genius breeder. Even the president of the Breeder Guild of Kana City, Master Fi Jing, often communicated with him. The closeness between the words made Yu happy. He finally had a little foundation for his survival in this world. No need to worry anymore. He is no longer the little pirate who can be manipulated. Yu walked slowly to the cafeteria. There were not many people inside, but Yu still went to the private room on the second floor. After all, there was such a clause in his employment package, so he would rather not use it. Pan-fried scallops, mushroom vermicelli casserole, steamed slowpoke tail. Yu ordered a few dishes he liked within the meal fee standard. It must be said that the food was quite good. After finishing lunch, Yu went to the school's logistics department to collect his 7-day allowance. 100,000 alliance coins? That's some extra money. If Yu said this to an outsider, he would definitely be beaten to death. 100,000 alliance coins is equivalent to the annual income of an ordinary family, and Yu can earn it in just 7 days. It can only be said that it is worthy of being a trainer school. A junior teacher hired from outside the school can get such a subsidy. I really don't know how those long-term teachers who have signed contracts are treated. But it is true. After all, it is a small class education, and we have to endure the mischief of these second generations. Knowledge is priceless. Yu returned to the teacher's dormitory. Although it is not a single-family villa, the single-room apartment is luxurious enough. Little Evie, I'm back. As soon as he opened the door, Yu shouted into the room. Sure enough, a shadow jumped out in a few seconds and jumped into his arms. Evie. Little Evie buried his head hard in Yu's chest, and his body kept twisting in his arms. Okay, little Evie, it's boring to stay at home alone. Yu had to work hard to coax little Evie. It must be said that Evie is really lovable. Even Yu had a moment when he wanted little Evie to be a pet instead of a fighting Pokémon. But this idea was quickly extinguished. Try to make a new energy block today. It's yours. It can increase the defense of the Pokémon's shell, the wall protection energy block. Yu immediately took out a small energy block making machine from his space backpack. As for the one that Mrs. Meta gave him before, it had been put in a corner for a long time, but it was not thrown away. After all, it was his first energy block making machine, so it was better to keep it as a souvenir. And in front of him, this one was purchased from the Cultivation Home Association. It was smaller and simpler, and it had more automated programs, so he didn't have to do everything himself. As the night slowly fell, a low roar continued to come from Yu's room. As the sound gradually disappeared, it didn't sound for a long time. Yu slowly opened the door, holding an energy cube storage box in his hand. The new energy cube inside, the wall defense energy cube that can be used to increase the hardness of the Pokémon's shell. And the failed waste materials were piled up in the corner of the room. In the next few days, Yu taught the students knowledge in the school, and no second-generation students who relied on their background dared to provoke him. I don't know if the rumors were too much, and he was too amazing, saying that he could determine life and death at a glance, and that Feng Chen was scared to pee his pants with just one sentence. Even when he walked normally in the school, those students didn't dare to look at him, which made Yu laugh and cry. But this matter also saved a lot of trouble. He didn't want to be entangled in some bloody campus plot. Chapter 54. Yu is bankrupt recently. Alas, with more Pokémons, more resources are consumed. I have to buy a large number of materials to practice making energy blocks. Yu looked at the less than 100,000 alliance coins in his account and wondered if he should sell a batch of energy blocks. As the number of Pokémons increased, the consumption became larger and larger, and the bills were all the various expenses needed by the Pokémons. A flying weight for Murkrow training. A sandbag for training the claws of the lobster. Buy a device for Megalodon that can automatically build a small pool at any time. Eevee, the only one who saves money, spends a lot of money on snacks, boffins, biscuits, and dolls. I have a lot of energy blocks in my hands, but I can find a way to sell a batch. Recently, he has practiced a lot of new types of energy blocks, all of which have strange functions. Therefore, except for some daily use, the rest can be considered for sale. Yu put all the energy cubes into a beautiful box and said to himself, but I can't sell them on the black market this time. I'd better go to some shops or breeding guilds. The price sold on the black market will certainly be a little higher, but it is not a good idea to keep selling them. At present, Yu's apparent income mainly comes from the investment of Chinjuajim and Joey's family, but as long as someone carefully checks, they will find that Yu's expenditure and income bills are wrong. Therefore, it is urgent to forge a reasonable bill and source of funds. Kana's city is very large. If you don't follow the navigation on the Pokémon Encyclopedia, it may be difficult to find the Pokémon store. Walk into a bustling department store. Yu saw it at a glance. The shop on the first floor is very eye-catching. The blue exterior with the Pokeball plaque is very conspicuous. Yu looked at the lively flow of people in the building and couldn't help sighing, the owner of this building must be making a fortune every day. A little envy surged in my heart. Yu walked towards the store, and as soon as he approached the door, it opened automatically. The prosperity of Kana's city is reflected in all aspects of life. As soon as he entered the door, there were few people in the entire store, and only a few uniformed staff members were fiddling with the goods. The shelves were full of dazzling goods, and Yu saw the latest sweet balls launched by Devon Company. Welcome. A staff member approached and wanted to entertain Yu. Yu politely refused and said that he was just looking around and was not in a hurry to sell the energy cubes directly. First, he walked around the entire store and learned about the approximate prices and market conditions of various products and energy cubes. Finally, he walked to the front desk and said to the staff on duty, I am a breeder. I wonder if you are interested in purchasing energy cubes. Yu took out the medal representing the junior breeder from his arms and showed it to the clerk. But how could an ordinary clerk decide such a big thing, so he directly called the store owner behind him. A tall and thin man with a big beard. Thank you, distinguished breeder, for trusting our store. Do you mind if I go find an appraiser? The shop owner greeted Yu very warmly, and seemed to respect breeders very much. Yu nodded in agreement. Not long after, an old man wearing reading glasses walked into the store, who seemed to be a professional appraiser. There is no problem with these energy cubes. Each one has full energy and bright color. The person who made this batch of energy cubes is definitely a leader among the primary breeders. The old man's shrewd eyes revealed a sense of respect, and he slowly put down the appraisal tools and said. After this, the shop owner on the side had no more questions and began to discuss the price with Hey Yu. Okay, 1.4 million, I will also spend money in your store and buy some items. Hey Yu issued a final ultimatum, and the price of the goods worth 1.3 million was raised again. Okay, deal. The shop owner gritted his teeth and agreed. It is rare to come across such a batch of high-quality energy cubes, and there is profit to be made by selling all of them. Of course, what he values most is the variety of these energy blocks and some of the more niche special effects. Often a breeder will only be proficient in 2 to 3 types of energy blocks, which helps them improve their production proficiency. And these energy blocks with special functions can help their store to gain a good reputation. For example, energy blocks that can help Pokémons comb and grow hair. For example, energy blocks that can help Pokémons gain weight and become larger in a short period of time. For example, energy blocks that can help Pokémons increase their body flexibility. These energy blocks are very niche, but for a certain in the Pokémons of this kind are quite useful. After signing the contract and asking the bank to notarize it, Hey Yu successfully obtained this huge amount of funds. Please help me pack this black glasses prop. After careful selection, Hey Yu finally chose a prop that can increase the power of evil attribute moves by 8% black glasses. There is also an appraisal certificate from a certain institution attached to it. Generally speaking, ordinary props increase by 5% to 15%. If it is less than 5%, it will be considered a broken prop, which may be damaged or lose its wearing function at any time. If it exceeds 15%, it will be considered a rare prop, and the price will double for every 1% increase. The former is generally unpopular in the market, while the latter is basically not seen in the market and is almost monopolized by large families. However, there is an exception. I remember that a few years ago, there was a news that a prop with an increase of only 0.1% was not damaged and could still be used by Pokémons. Finally, it was bought by a mysterious wealthy businessman who did not want to reveal his name at a shocking price of over 10 million yuan, and it was said that he wanted it as a collection. In this store, he bought some basic items, nutrient solution and ordinary materials, spending nearly 1 million alliance coins in total. Most of the money he had just received was spent again, and the balance in the account dropped below 500,000 again. After returning to the room in the Pokémon Center, Hey Yu released several Pokémons again. Little Eevee couldn't wait to try the latest flavor of Pofen. A pair of furry little hands pulled Hey Yu's trouser legs and asked for snacks. Okay, don't worry, I'll give it to you right away. Hey Yu said dotingly. He reluctantly took out snacks from the space backpack and handed them to little Eevee. These cooked Pofen are not only edible by humans, but also very popular with Pokémons. However, Hey Yu was not very interested in food, so the Pofen he bought from the cake shop were almost all specially prepared for little Eevee. After all, even Murkrow, who has always been aloof, knows that Eevee is a greedy little cat. Come on, Megalodon, absorb this into your body. Hey Yu carefully took out the black glasses and slowly brought them close to Megalodon's body. When the black glasses approached Megalodon, a mysterious force began to surge. Megalodon's body seemed to resonate with the black glasses. A faint light flashed, and the black glasses automatically broke away from Hey Yu's hands and flew straight to Megalodon. Megalodon opened its mouth and swallowed the black glasses into its stomach. Hey Yu was frightened, but fortunately this strange way of wearing props was feasible. Then, Megalodon's body trembled slightly, an array of energy representing evil attributes overflowed from the sharp tip of its teeth. A shadow of black glasses appeared behind Megalodon. The bully in the water, Megalodon. Chapter 55. Hey Yu's last day at school. Walking slowly into the classroom, all the students lowered their heads, not daring to look him in the eye. Hey Yu raised his lips and smiled slightly, saying, "Today there is no training class. I will take you to Do-One's class to audit the Pokémon battle class. Today seems to be an open class taught by Do-One to all students in the school. With Do-One's popularity, it is not surprising that it is a hit. Almost all students in the class will go to audit, and Hey Yu just saves a lot of trouble, so he simply takes a dozen students with him. It just so happens that he also wants to listen to the course explained by this top student who is intoxicated with the rock department." Yet, a dozen students in the class suddenly cheered, and Hey Yu led the way in front and walked to the southernmost part of the school. A large battle square. When Hey Yu arrived with the students, there were already quite a few people gathered here. Roughly speaking, there were hundreds of students. Du-Wan was surrounded in the center, with a small projector, a screen, and a lawn as all the tools for teaching. Pokémon battles are not as simple as everyone usually imagines, nor are they as easy as everyone usually relies on battle simulations. Pokémon battles require consideration of a series of duels such as the venue environment, moves, tactical matching, and prop selection. In addition, the psychological game and stress resistance of the trainers on both sides must also be considered. Du-Wan, surrounded by hundreds of students, paced on the playground, holding a small teaching stick in her hand, and tirelessly taught everyone about the battle. Unfortunately, most students didn't seem to care much. In their minds, battles rely on the crushing of the Pokémon's levels and the duel of moves, and the rest are all illusions. These students who have never experienced a real battle don't know the game of Pokémon's battles. Let's take a look at the video of the battle between Dragon Master Du and Ice King Kona in the last Kanto Regional Championship Challenge. When Heiyu heard the dodo, he instantly became alert, watching the fierce battle on the projector with curiosity in his eyes. The students on the side were also very happy to watch the battle, not because they were eager to learn, but purely because. Hehe, I remember this is the 4th championship challenge for Dragon Master, right? Every time he loses at Kona's level. Haha, yes, every time the shelled thorn shell can always defeat Dragonite. According to what you said, why do I feel that Dragon Master Du is not like a Dragon King? I always feel that all his Pokémons are flying. These students' focus is almost all on gossip, and as for the psychological game and tactical duel analyzed by Du-Wan, they didn't listen to a single bit. This gave Du-Wan, who was explaining, a headache, and she could only teach these rich kids earnestly. It's a pity that these students didn't seem to appreciate it. Look at you guys, you are so lazy and self-righteous. Pokémon battles are not as simple as you think. Du-Wan's originally dignified and reserved face showed anger, and even the ribbon-like hair behind her kept shaking. Look at Heiyu, who is the same age as you, but is already a junior breeder, and even the battles are far better than you. In a hurry, Du-Wan actually rarely brought the topic to Heiyu. When she said it, she seemed to realize that something was wrong, but it was too late. All the students' eyes and hatred were attracted to Heiyu. Originally, everyone had been discussing Heiyu a lot recently. Why should Heiyu, who was about the same age as them, be their teacher? Moreover, even their elders and parents behind them often compared them with Heiyu, and their dissatisfaction with Heiyu had been accumulated for a long time. Now seeing that the goddess teacher in everyone's mind actually respected Heiyu so much, some hot-tempered students couldn't stand it on the spot. Why? Just because he has a good talent as a breeder, why can he be better than us in battle? That's right. This kid's Pokémon level is not high. He won Teacher Du-Wan last time by pure luck. Come and have a fight if you can. The criticisms of countless students instantly rushed towards Heiyu. Du-Wan in the center of the venue was a little overwhelmed. She didn't expect that her casual words would bring such a big trouble to Heiyu. Anxiety appeared on her face. She wanted to stop the students' anger, but unfortunately her admonition was soon drowned out by the noisy voices. Heiyu frowned slightly, and her sharp eyes swept across the crowd, and finally glanced at Du-Wan. Did you do it on purpose? Or was it an accident? Heiyu thought to himself. But I really can't think of why Du-Wan did this, and coupled with the fact that Fang's expression of being at a loss, he had already made a judgment in his heart. But we can't let them scold like this. Heiyu slowly stood up, swept his cold eyes to everyone, and said, Article 7 of the Academy Code, insulting and disrespecting teachers will be punished by expulsion and never being recruited. As soon as these words came out, the venue was instantly quiet. Among the students present, except for a few who really have a powerful background, they can withdraw from the trainer school at will. The vast majority of the others care about this student status and resume very much. If they are really expelled because of this matter, they will not be able to explain to their families and parents when they go home. Du-Wan, who was standing by, saw that Heiyu quickly calmed down the anger of the students, and she was relieved. Although she was a top student who graduated and served as the owner of a gym, she was still a newcomer in dealing with people. She couldn't do things as experienced and decisive as Heiyu. Heiyu. Du-Wan murmured unconsciously, her voice was so soft that it seemed that only she could hear it. A pair of charming eyes like gems locked onto Heiyu with a little admiration. This ordinary trainer has brought her too many surprises. Recalling their first encounter, Yu chased her from the gym to school to fight with her in the gym, and showed a courageous fighting acumen in the Pokémon battle. At that time, Du-Wan realized that this young man might have great achievements in the future. But she didn't expect that it would be less than half a month before she heard about Yu again. He suddenly became a highly regarded genius breeder and became a hot commodity that all major forces were vying to win over. Even she herself was no exception. She went to the Pokémon Center in person to invite him, but unfortunately she was rejected. But in the conversation with Yu, she was impressed by his profound knowledge of breeding. And now, when facing such a problem that makes people feel at a loss, this Yu showed a calm mind far beyond ordinary people. Du-Wan found that everything she was proud of seemed useless at this moment, and her slight sense of superiority had quietly dissipated. I want to be a decisive master like Yu. Du-Wan secretly made up her mind, and looked at Yu, who quickly turned the situation around with a determined look. Chapter 56. Du-Wan looked at Yu's pretty face, with a little admiration and a different feeling in her charming eyes. Feng Chen, who was in the corner, saw all this, and a surge of jealousy and dissatisfaction surged in his heart, and his resentment towards Yu became even more severe. Especially when he saw that the goddess teacher in his mind actually showed that expression to Yu, he was even more jealous and crazy, and even his originally stiff expression was a little distorted. He looked down on Yu from the beginning, and after being scolded by Yu in public a few days ago, he became a laughingstock in the academy. Although the other students did not dare to talk about him in person because of his deep family background, almost everyone laughed at him behind his back. Especially when some rumors were spread extremely exaggeratedly, he was even more ashamed to go to class. For him, losing face was worse than death. If it weren't for Teacher Du-Wan's open class today, he would probably still be hiding in the dormitory as usual. The family came to me for this matter a few days ago, and even my father scolded me. Although Feng Chen's family is huge, he is just a collateral descendant and is not favored. His monthly resource quota, which is not much, has been cut by more than half because of this incident. So that his monthly pocket money is not enough to spend now, and he has to ask his parents for extra money. And the culprit of all this is that man. Yu. Feng Chen became more and more angry, and his gnashing teeth looked a little ferocious, so that he said something that made him regret for the rest of his life. Teacher Yu, if that's the case, do you dare to have a simulated Pokémon battle with me? The eyes of many students turned to Feng Chen again. Most people thought of the grudge between the two in their minds. After all, rumors always spread quickly, and people are always willing to believe rumors. Yu was slightly stunned, and then looked at the student who had been secretly remembered by him. Unexpectedly, he came to the door before he started to retaliate against the other party. Simulated battle? No problem, I just wonder if I can ask Teacher Du-Wan to borrow the school's simulated battle helmet. Yu turned around and shouted at Du-Wan. The so-called simulated battle, in simple terms, is similar to the virtual projection game in the previous life. The trainer only needs to wear a helmet to automatically simulate the appearance of the Pokémon with the help of the projector. Although the Pokémon cannot receive instructions as flexibly as in reality, it is no problem to use the most basic moves. This kind of high technology is almost unheard of in the outside world, and there is no news, but it has actually been put into the trainer school by the top leaders of the alliance. Yu looked at Feng Chen expressionlessly, staring at the other party with cold and sharp eyes, which made him a little scared. Feng Chen took a small step back, swallowing his saliva from time to time and looking a little nervous. In fact, he already regretted it in his heart. No matter how this matter develops today, he will inevitably be punished when he returns to the family. He already felt regret for offending a promising breeder, not to mention that this breeder was the target of the family's strong efforts to win over. It's a pity that he can only bite the bullet now. Otherwise, how can he survive in school in the future? How will others laugh at him? After Du-Wan agreed, several staff members took out the sealed Pokémon simulation battle helmet, and Yu put on this precious device. Feeling a slight dizziness in his mind, suddenly, a pair of gorgeous little hands lifted Yu up, and he felt a fragrance at the tip of his nose. It's Du-Wan. Yu instantly realized the true identity of the person who supported him. And Yu, who had already put on the helmet and could not observe the situation outside, did not know how much of a sensation it caused. Teacher Du-Wan, who showed her dignified and reserved face to outsiders, actually supported a strange man in public. I don't know how many students' hearts were secretly broken. Du-Wan's pretty face flushed slightly, and the gazes and whispers from the students around her made her cheeks burn like fire. She carefully helped Hei-yu sit on the lawn, then hurriedly left and returned to the crowd. As the battle began, 2 Pokémon phantoms composed of blue light began to appear in front of everyone. The Pokémons were very lifelike. Some freshmen who had never been exposed to such high-tech devices were very curious, and their eager expressions made the old students disgusted. They had long been tired of playing with this kind of combat device, and their combat training was basically completed on it. Alas, is there really any hope for the next generation of the Alliance? When Du-Wan thought that these students had not even experienced the most basic combat, she felt very sad. I can't help but ask questions. At the same time, I am very worried about the education of the next generation of the Alliance. Hei-yu looked at the button shadows that appeared in front of him, and played with this Pokémon simulation helmet with curiosity. Hey, I can actually choose Pokémons? Garchomp? Dragonite? Dragonite. Even props and characteristics can be selected. Isn't this the same as the game battle in the previous life? A smile gradually appeared on Hei-yu's mouth. With the memory of his previous life, he didn't know how many lineups and routines were sealed in his mind. It's a pity that these can't be realized in real battles, and they just come in handy now. The opposite Feng Chen chose to fight 3v3. In simple terms, both sides sent out 3 Pokémons to fight in a melee. Interesting, did the opponent really choose a strong dragon Pokémon? Hei-yu looked at the 3 blue Pokémon shadows that appeared in the middle of the field, and said as expected. Dragonite, Garchomp, and Smelly Dragon. The opponents chose almost all quasi-gods from various regions. Hei-yu's eyes rolled around, and he finally chose an unexpected lineup. Parasaurolophus, Scorpio King, Iron Ant. The students watching the battle looked at the 3 Pokémon's phantoms and wondered, why not choose quasi-gods and the 3 great Pokémons? Hei-yu looked at the characteristics of the 3 Pokémons, and a look of satisfaction emerged in his heart. The battle began, and as expected, the dragon Pokémons showed their dominance with their tyrannical power, and beat Hei-yu back step by step. Scorpio King activates the Poisonous Orb. Parasaurolophus activates the Poisonous Orb. Iron Ant uses Find Partner. Find Partner, dance with magical dance to make the opponent imitate their movements, so that the characteristics become the same. As Hei-yu's command fell, a ball of purple mist suddenly appeared on the 2 Pokémons, and the poison spread all over their bodies. In the shocked eyes of everyone, the poison healing characteristic was launched brazenly. The characteristics of the 3 enemy dragon-type quasi-gods all turned into the hidden characteristics of the Iron Ant laziness. In an instant, the attacks of the 3 dragon-type Pokémon suddenly dropped, and their sharp eyes began to become listless, and their bodies became lazy and unwilling to move. The parasitic mushroom used poison on himself and the Scorpio King. At the same time, the parasitic mushroom used poisonous skills to attack himself and the Scorpio King continuously. The toxins in the body have accumulated to an incredible degree, and with the poison healing characteristics, all these toxins are converted into healing. The 3 dragon-type Pokémons of the opponent are getting more and more tired, and the slow characteristics are holding them back. The Scorpio King and the parasitic mushroom are fighting more and more happily. Even if they are injured, they can be treated quickly with the poison healing characteristics. As time slowly passed, the 3 quasi-gods fell to the ground, and the students watching the battle on the periphery were already stunned. 3 ordinary Pokémons, relying on various operations, dragged 3 quasi-gods to death. I don't accept it, come again. Tearing off his helmet, Feng Chen panted, his eyes were full of anger, and he looked unconvinced. In his opinion, this kind of cheating tactic can't be called a battle at all. A battle should be a fair and upright confrontation. Hei-yu looked at Feng Chen in surprise. It was the first time he saw someone who wanted to be abused. Okay, I agree. In this case, how can he not do what he wants? Then, for a whole afternoon, Hei-yu and the opponent fought more than a dozen battles. Without exception, Feng Chen failed and was abused miserably. During this period, Hei-yu used the tricks he knew in his previous life. Substitute defense poison tactics. Tianan King's certificate infinite shrinking tactics. Small throwing mud plus light powder prop tactics. Invisible rock plus sprinkling diamonds plus poison diamonds tactics. It can be said that the battle this afternoon opened the eyes of the students in the entire trainer school. They never thought that the battle could be so diverse. Various Pokémon and props are matched. The collision between moves and tactics. The psychological game between trainers. As another battle ended, He Yu slowly took off his helmet and looked at Feng Chen, who had been beaten by him and was already autistic and doubting his life. Pokémon battles are not as simple as you think. What I present is just the tip of the iceberg. Chapter 57. After completing his 1-week teaching career, He Yu returned to the Pokémon Center, where he continued to train Pokémons and study cultivation knowledge every day. Before leaving, he selected a general intermediate evil energy block formula as a reward for being a temporary teacher. Dark Crow, use Black Mist. In a closed indoor training room, He Yu directed the Dark Crow wearing a weight. The Dark Crow in the room suddenly shook its wings, and a sharp beak spewed out a cloud of black mist. Skill Black Mist. This skill can return the abilities of Pokémons who inhale the mist to their original point, and it is very restraining to strengthen skills such as overconfidence or sword dance. Therefore, it is the top priority for Dark Crow to learn. And Dark Crow, who has the characteristic of mischievous heart, can achieve twice the result with half the effort, whether it is releasing or learning transformation skills. He Yu watched silently in the corner of the room, as the mist slowly dissipated in the air without the control of energy. Okay, Murkrow, come back. The Murkrow hovering over the room heard this and immediately retracted its wings, slowly landing on He Yu's shoulder. Ga. The Murkrow made a hoarse cry as if showing off. A hint of tenderness flashed in He Yu's eyes, and he stroked Murkrow's wings and praised, Murkrow did a very good job, but don't forget to train flying while training new skills. Murkrow has recently been able to adapt to various environments and fly, and can still flap its wings and fly even in the strong wind blown by the toucan. However, its flying skills are a bit difficult to see. Once it encounters complex terrain and obstacles, its speed will drop rapidly. Otherwise, it will not have time to brake and crash into it. Iron Claw Lobster, how is the dragon dance training going these days? Have you made any progress? He Yu looked at the corner and asked the Iron Claw Lobster who was waving his claws at the sandbag. Just claw. The Iron Claw Lobster turned around and knocked the sandbag away, wantonly venting its strength. Hearing the question from its master trainer, it hurriedly walked to the master with 6 short legs, then slowly closed its eyes and mobilized the dragon energy. As a few seconds passed, the Iron Claw Lobster began to wave its claws, its body gradually swayed, and began to dance a strange and mysterious dance. The body's momentum slowly rose, purple-red energy scattered and overflowed, and the dragon dance was successfully performed. He Yu said happily, yes, now the dragon dance is more and more proficient, Iron Claw Lobster, this is the focus of your future training, you must carefully comprehend it. He Yu immediately started to count the time, and the training of the dragon dance is mainly reflected in 3 aspects. The time it takes to perform the dragon dance. How much energy the dragon dance can increase. The time that the dragon dance can last. The second one requires precise instruments to test, so now He Yu focuses on the other 2 aspects. A huge body and a strong body can withstand more energy. He Yu knew this truth very well, so he would mix some energy blocks that improve physical fitness into the energy blocks he fed to the lobster. As time passed slowly, the ticking sound of 1 second after another rang in the quiet room. The energy boosted by the dragon dance in the lobster's body gradually could not be maintained, and began to slowly decline, and finally rapidly declined in just a few seconds until it disappeared. 47 seconds. He Yu looked at the time on the timing software on the illustration, and his mood could not help but be very good. The first dragon dance lasted only more than 20 seconds, and in just over 10 days, it actually improved so much. After feeding the Pokémon a few energy blocks to restore physical strength, He Yu began to think about the next training plan. As the sun set, He Yu went to the front desk to cancel this training room, and then paid the overtime fee. For a special training room like this, even if he is a direct trainer, he has to pay for it. After all, the abundant energy inside and the loss of the room cost money. At night, He Yu, who was lying on the bed, suddenly thought of something, sat up suddenly, and slapped his thigh. By the way, Murkrow and Eevee have never seen blood since they were born. As a pure pirate, He Yu's profession of licking blood on the edge of a knife has long been accustomed to killing people or Pokémons. The Iron Claw and Megalodon that followed him in the early days were killed in blood and fire, and countless Pokémons died under their claws and bloody mouths. But Eevee and Murkrow are different. After the 2 Pokémons were captured, He Yu had already started traveling on land. Therefore, he has hardly seen blood. I finally understand why Murkrow can never integrate into the team and can't really get to know Iron Claw and others. Yu said to himself thoughtfully. This is because Murkrow lacks the bloody baptism. Little Eevee can also get the status of the team's favorite by being cute, but the cunning crow Pokémon can't do it. Even Murkrow sometimes seems too aloof, and is unwilling to get close to any Pokémon except his master trainer. Yu thought about a lot of things in his mind, and finally fell asleep, while the little Eevee turned over lazily in the quilt. The little Eevee, who was sleeping dazedly just now, was awakened by Yu's sudden rise. Seeing that there was nothing to do, he continued to curl up, wrapped his body with his furry tail, leaving only a small head exposed, and leaned on Yu's shoulder. He fell into a deep sleep. The morning sun had just risen. On the eastern outskirts of Kana's city, a black-haired boy wearing ordinary adventure clothes appeared. The boy had a delicate face. If he was paired with some warm-colored clothes, he would definitely be very lovable. But for some reason, the boy was dressed in cold black, and with a cute Eevee beside him, it looked very strange. Yu had left Kana's city just after dawn, preparing to go to the wild to train Pokémon, and also accepted several alliance tasks. The only famous wild adventure places nearby are the Orange Forest and the Kalu Tunnel. The Kalu Tunnel, after passing through it, you can go directly to Green Town. It is an important tunnel connecting the two towns. The Kalu Tunnel had been mined by Devon Company before, but I don't know why the project was stopped, and even turned this place into an adventure area for trainers to enter and explore. Yu muttered to himself according to the information he found on the internet. It is worth mentioning that there are a lot of minerals in the Kalu Tunnel. Maybe an inconspicuous stone contains an evolution stone of extremely high quality. Therefore, it attracted a large number of people who hoped to get rich overnight by gambling on stones. It is said that there is even a gambling stone shop outside, which is responsible for selling mineral gambling stones mined from the Kalu Tunnel. Ga! A hoarse cry came from the sky. Yu looked up and saw that the reconnaissance Dark Crow had returned, stretching out an arm as a landing point. The Dark Crow slowly swooped down and landed. Yu felt a gust of wind pressure and subconsciously closed his eyes. When he opened his eyes again, he was greeted by a huge bird's beak. Ga! Ga! Yu listened to the Dark Crow reporting the situation ahead, and his pair of black feather wings kept gesturing. Although he could roughly understand it, there were still some details that he could not take into account. Yu took off the unmanned camera around the neck of the Dark Crow and began to observe the situation ahead through video recording. Chapter 58. Walking slowly on the forest path, leaving a trail of footprints of varying depths on the soil, Yu finally stopped beside a lush tree. Carefully poking his head out, he looked at the Pokémon in the bushes. A very common Pokémon, the stingray. This one is very common in the wild forests of the Hone region. Its status is similar to that of the green caterpillar in the Kanto region, belonging to the bottom of the food chain. The stingray was seen chewing a piece of fresh bark on the ground, eating it with great pleasure. The two thorns on the tail were raised, tearing the bark apart, putting it into the mouth to chew, and the oozing juice dripped onto the ground. Dark Crow, use the wind. A black strange crow rushed out from the branches, and with a flap of its wings, it immediately rolled out two gusts of wind. Ga! A faint blue energy emerged, and a black light flashed across. Before the stingray could react, the attack fell heavily on it. Yo! The stingtail screamed in pain, and blood slowly flowed from the wounds on its body. The stingtail, which was naturally timid, hurriedly began to run fast, trying to escape. How could Yu let it escape safely? He hurriedly ordered, Dark Crow, don't show mercy, just use peck. The sharp beak of the Dark Crow gradually became sharper, flapping its wings and swooping down, and its sharp beak pecked the stingtail fiercely. The stingtail collapsed to the ground with wounds all over it, and a trace of pleading flashed in its eyes. Yu's voice without any emotion appeared again, keep attacking, kill it. The law of survival in the wild is the law of the jungle. Yu came to make the two Pokémons bleed today, so he would not show any mercy. The Dark Crow flapped its wings in the air, looked at Yu hesitantly, and then looked at the stingtail lying on the ground with wounds all over it, and a trace of pity flashed in its eyes. But in the end, due to Black Feather's expressionless attitude, Murkrow still launched a pecking attack, and the sharp beak attacked again until the stingtail lost its breath. Ibrahimovic. The little Eevee on the side was crying, and his furry ears covered his eyes, trying not to look, but he still smelled the bloody smell in the air, so he was frightened. Extremely scared, he actually chose to enter the Pokeball that he had always been reluctant to stay in. Ah! A trace of satisfaction flashed in Black Feather's eyes. In the world of cannibalism in the wild, there is no mercy. But they will need to adapt to it next time. Black Feather felt that it was still a bit radical. As a crow Pokémon, Murkrow is synonymous with insidiousness, cunningness, and cruel fighting, so it may be easier to accept. But Eevee. Alas, let's go back and enlighten her. After cleaning up the traces of battle around him, Black Feather embarked on the journey to the Kaloo Tunnel again. For more than a day, Hayu stayed in the forest, during which he mainly trained Murkrow. As he killed more and more Pokémons, Murkrow gradually understood the principle of the survival of the fittest. He became more and more decisive and ruthless when he took action. In this regard, Crow Pokémon seemed to have a special talent and could always adapt very quickly. Murkrow gradually experienced the baptism of blood, and the sharp eyes in his eyes were enough to scare away some timid Pokémons. Therefore, Murkrow's level was rapidly increasing and had reached level 13. Finally I got out. Although it was not as tiring as crossing the Orange Forest before, it was not easy to train Murkrow along the way. Hayu looked at the tire marks and footprints that were clearly visible on the roadside, and a smile appeared on his face. Ga. The Murkrow also made a hoarse cry and flapped its wings happily. After some thinking, Hayu decided not to walk anymore. He took out a folding mountain bike from his space backpack and rode all the way to the Kaloo Tunnel. During the journey, we finally saw some people, most of whom were carrying mining tools such as hoes or shovels. The destination was naturally the same as Hayu, the Green Tunnel, but it looked very professional, as if they were here specifically for gold panning and mining. We're finally here, those huge sheds in front should be the gambling stone shop. Hayu put down the monoculars, looked at the large area of green tents in front, patted the dust on his body, and drove towards the destination. A black-haired boy rode a bicycle, followed by a dark crow, and people along the way were attracted. But after only a brief glance, he quickly retracted it. Although Hayu was a little tattered, the trainer adventure suit on his body could not be fake. But even so, there was still a little surprise. A plump Miss Juncha in a blue police uniform appearing on a motorcycle, blocking Hayu's way forward. Hello, this trainer, please show me your alliance identity card. If there is any offense, please forgive me. Miss Juncha, with a pair of long legs, jumped off the motorcycle very domineeringly, first took out her police officer ID, and then asked Hayu to show his ID. In a pair of charming eyes, with a sense of scrutiny, the caterpie beside him also rushed up and sniffed Hayu fiercely. Of course, there is more than one Miss Juncha or Miss Joey in a city, and the one in front of him is responsible for checking the trainers who want to enter the Kaloo Tunnel. After all, the Kaloo Tunnel is quite special. It is neither wild nor urban, and it has not been planned as a conservation area by the Alliance. Hello, Miss Juncha, this is my ID card. Thank you for your routine inspection here. Hayu said in a tired voice, took out his ID card from his arms, and handed it to Miss Juncha in front of him. Miss Juncha took out a small machine with a strange appearance and put Hayu's card on it, and then a beeping alarm sounded. After carefully reading the information that appeared, Miss Juncha's vigilant face gradually eased. A trainer of the Alliance? It seems that there should be no problem. It is actually the second-level authority of the Alliance. Miss Juncha's heroic face showed a touch of surprise, especially when she saw the proof of the Joey family's guaranteed investment. She looked up and down at Hayu. After handing the identity card back, she said apologetically, I'm sorry, respected Hayu trainer, I am also doing routine work. Recently, there are often people from the underground dark organization in the Kaloo Tunnel to make trouble. Miss Juncha rarely explained. You know, she usually doesn't show any color to those ordinary trainers. Hayu didn't say much, just nodded lightly, and then hurried to the tent area below. Thank you Miss Juncha. I'm really tired, so I'll take my leave first. Hayu got on his bike and pedaled down. Woof woof woof. Growlithe rarely yelled a few words. Miss Juncha looked at Hayu's back as he left, and murmured, Growlithe, you said he smelled of blood, didn't you? In fact, Miss Juncha also found something wrong with Hayu, but it was unnecessary. After all, there was no evidence and it was a waste of time. Moreover, slaughtering and capturing Pokémon in the wild is an unwritten rule among the trainers of the Alliance. After all, in the wild, the legal constraints of the Alliance are too weak. Then, Miss Juncha continued to stick to her post. 2 more trainers came on the path, but this time Miss Juncha questioned them harshly. Because these 2 trainers were just civilian trainers, not even the direct trainers of the Alliance. Finally, under Miss Juncha's suggestion, the 2 civilian trainers secretly stuffed 2 Alliance coins in exchange for the release pass. Hehe, although the treatment here is not as good as in the city, there are still many opportunities to make extra money. Don't look at Miss Juncha like her. She looks glamorous on the surface, but in fact, the pressure she needs to bear is not small. In the city, the position with good benefits and high salary is not the turn of her family's side branch. But the training funds for her own Caterpie and several other Pokémons really need Alliance coins. Therefore, they can only use the little power in their hands to earn some extra money besides wages. Miss Juncha nodded the Alliance coins she had just earned. She was very skilled in embezzling money. She stuffed the Alliance coins back into her wallet and continued to wait for the arrival of the next trainer. Hey, it's you, stop. Please show your ID. Chapter 59. Break. Ding-ling-ling. Hey Yu parked his mountain bike outside the gambling stone shop and jumped off the bike with a trot. It's so lively. It seems that these people are all going to explore the card green tunnel. The whole gambling stone shop made a noisy sound. From time to time, people came in and out, carrying hoes or mining shovels behind them. Hey Yu keenly observed that the equipment on these people seemed to be different. They were wearing thick boots, and even the shovels were black and gold, which seemed different from those on the market. Don't rush into the green card tunnel. Take a walk in the city first and check if there are any maps for sale. Hey Yu folded the bicycle and put it back into the space backpack, then took back the dark crow and changed his slightly tattered exploration clothes into a brand new one. He tidied his messy hair a little, wiped his face with a wet towel, and then slowly stepped into the stone shop. The whole stone shop was very large at a glance. Hey Yu entered from the gate and couldn't see the end. The stalls along the way were filled with stones of different shapes and sizes. Some looked strange, like some kind of Pokémons, while others were extremely small, only the size of an egg. Next to the stalls, from time to time, someone would hold a flashlight or a magnifying glass and observe non-stop. Finally, it seemed that he had made up his mind and gritted his teeth to buy one of them. Finally, a bunch of people who were making a fuss around watched as the stone was slowly fed into the cutting machine. The roar of woohoo sounded, as the saying goes, one cut makes you poor and one cut makes you rich. A stone worth tens of thousands of Alliance coins may turn out a pile of worthless waste, or an inconspicuous stone may bring 1,000 times the return and make you rich overnight. This is a paradise for lucky people, but also a hell for gamblers. Some people get rich overnight here, while others lose everything here. Hey Yu is not interested in gambling on stones, not because he is so self-disciplined, but because he knows that these are all scams. Is it true that the Alliance or those high-level figures have no way to detect what is in the stone? Not to mention that he had already seen all kinds of high-tech products of the Alliance, the various wonders of the Pokémons in this world made him very suspicious. Can the superpower Pokémons really not detect what is inside? Can the rock Pokémons really not feel the special minerals inside? After Hey Yu figured out the relationship behind it, he had no interest in gambling on stones. As for those poor people who lost their fortunes because of gambling on stones, Hey Yu was even less interested in persuading them. Sometimes people can never teach people, but things can teach people once, which is enough to remember for a lifetime. What's more, what does it have to do with Hey Yu? Everyone has his own destiny and choice. If you interfere with other people's causes, you will bear other people's consequences. After simply visiting a small area, Hey Yu began to ask some merchants and passers-by and learn the location of the map seller. Brother, do you want a map? 5,000 Alliance coins, no bargaining. The dwarf map vendor with a big backpack took out a brand new map from his backpack. Hey Yu took a quick look and found that it was hand-painted and printed. It seems that there should be a good industrial chain behind it. Brother, don't worry, this map was just updated a few days ago. As long as you don't enter the deepest part of the Kalu tunnel, there will generally be no problems. The map vendor patted his chest and guaranteed. Hey Yu secretly said, sure enough. There must be someone who went in specifically to collect the terrain, and someone else who drew it specifically. The vendor in front of him should be the last one, responsible for selling the map. After giving the other party 5,000 Alliance coins, Hey Yu got a map, but did not venture directly into the Kalu tunnel, but found several more map vendors. Although the maps sold by each map dealer are different in details, they are roughly the same. After ensuring the accuracy of the map, Hey Yu bought a pair of exploration boots and an alloy shovel in a shop near the gambling stone room. Although I went in to train my Pokémons, if I can encounter rare ores, I can't miss it. Anyway, even if I don't encounter rare ores, these equipment can be recycled and it won't waste much money. Yu followed the troops entering the tunnel and slowly entered a foggy tunnel along the rocky path. At the entrance of the tunnel, there were a large number of people holding signs, and the content written on them surprised Yu. Mining team, I have a moisture-type Pokémon that can prevent explosions. An exploration team with more than 3 years of experience, looking for a flying Pokémon trainer who can blow away fog. Yu looked at these people thoughtfully, considering that there are 2 characteristics in the tunnel that are also on the internet very famous. One is the various rare Pokémon inside, including Guadud, Gunyu, etc. The second is that the tunnel is always filled with light fog, which greatly affects the vision. The visibility of the dim tunnel in front of me is almost no more than 5 meters. If there is no flying Pokémon or an exploration flashlight, you will definitely get lost in it. Just as Yu was about to enter, a noisy cheer suddenly broke out in the distance. What's going on? What's going on? Oh my god, go back and see if someone in the gambling stone shop has cut out a high-level thunderstone. Is it true? Wouldn't it be a big profit? Soon, someone rushed to inform his companions of the news. Seeing this, the people around put down their props and chose to go back to join in the fun. After all, it is not every day to see ores of this level. Everyone wants to get a taste of the joy and worship the person who opened the Thunderstone. It is always human nature to join in the fun. Even the police officers standing guard at the entrance of the tunnel couldn't help but temporarily leave to watch. Yu stepped on a rock with one foot, looking at the stone archway from a distance, thinking to himself, the purity of the evolution stone that can be called high level is generally above 90, and it is definitely worth $1 million. This is just talking about 90 purity. If the purity is a little higher, the price will be a little higher. Although the popularity of Thunderstone is not as high as that of Firestone and Waterstone, it is still valuable. Especially Kana's gym, which publicly sought to purchase Thunderstone more than a month ago. After all, the signature Pokémon of its owner Duan is the Dachau Bibi, which needs to be evolved with Thunderstone. Most of the apprentices recruited also have Chao Bibi. Yu was not interested in joining in the fun, so he turned and entered the dim tunnel, tightened the explorer hat on his head, and a beam of light shone from the light hole of the explorer hat. The Murkrow on Kuroya's shoulder flapped its wings and slowly blew away the mist, and Kuroya's figure gradually disappeared into the darkness. The entrance of the entire tunnel was empty. At this moment, 2 trainers wearing red and blue clothes walked out of the darkness and looked at the crowd led away by the Thunderstone with a mocking look. The fat man in red clothes said, "The alliance is getting more and more corrupt. We can easily lead the guards away." Another dark-skinned beauty in blue clothes said, "Don't talk nonsense here. Don't forget that our target is the things in the Kalu tunnel." The fat man in red clothes seemed to be very dissatisfied with what the woman said, and retorted, "Humph, Aquan, don't forget that we are just cooperating temporarily. We sneaked into Duan Company just for the newly developed data and the topographic map of the Kalu tunnel." Hwoken. What do you mean? I have shared the data and maps with you. You should also tell me the secrets hidden in the Kalu tunnel. The dark-skinned woman called Aquan stomped her feet angrily, and her hands slowly reached to her waist, looking at Hwoken in front of her vigilantly. The fat man in red clothes called Hwoken seemed to be a little afraid of the woman. He waved his hand and said, "Don't forget that our organizations are now in a period of secret cooperation. Are you sure you want to do it here?" Hwoken's words seemed to calm Aquan down. Both of them turned their heads to look at the dark and quiet tunnel, their eyes full of vigilance. Just after the 2 entered, dozens of people in red and blue clothes entered the Kalu tunnel in batches. The 2 sides were at loggerheads, but they talked about cooperation. Chapter 60. The Kalu tunnel was originally a vein that Devon Company was responsible for mining. There was only one vein here that could be used to make attribute gems. But as they dug deeper and deeper, they found that it seemed to be a mine pit, with an outrageous number of minerals of various attributes. Devon Company also took the opportunity to make a lot of money, gradually growing from a small company to a well-known cross-region company in the entire Pokémon world. It was just that the Kalu tunnel, which was used as their original capital accumulation at the beginning, suddenly stopped mining for unknown reasons. It was even open to a large number of trainers to allow them to enter and explore. Although this move made Devon Company's reputation soar to an incredible level. But the loss of benefits is also immeasurable. So relying on the gambling stone shop outside is also making a lot of money every day, but it is completely incomparable to swallowing such a big cake alone. The Kalu tunnel has been mined by trainers for several years, and the exploration area has extended to nearly 10,000 meters. During this period, various branch roads are as numerous as ant nests. It is unknown how much benefit the vast number of exploration trainers have gained from it, but it is definitely an astronomical figure. And all of this is the loss of Devon Company. No one knows why Devon Company did this, but this does not prevent the vast number of trainers from entering the tunnel to explore enthusiastically. Dark Crow, blow away the fog. Black Feather barely identified the direction through the beam of light emitted by the exploration hat on his head, and directed Dark Crow. As the fog in the area in front of him was blown away, Black Feather was finally able to spread out the map to identify the direction. At present, the road he was walking on was the central avenue of the entire Kalu tunnel, and in addition to this main tunnel, there were many branches. These forked paths were intricate, not only small in area, but also likely to hide some dangerous Pokémons. Every year, people who come to explore get lost in the mines and eventually become nutrients for the Pokémons in the dark. Black Feather recorded it by sprinkling a little special lime he developed on the road, and slowly went deeper into it through the map. After walking for more than 4 hours, he finally left the outermost perimeter. You scare on Murkrow. A dim light flashed in the cave, and with a scream, an ordinary Guaidud appeared in sight. Kuroyu commanded Eevee and Murkrow to deal with this Pokémon at the same time. As they went deeper and deeper, they began to encounter some low-level Pokémon. It's actually a Guaidud with the hidden trait Sand Hidden. I can keep it and sell it after I get out of the tunnel. Kuroyu also encountered some low-level Pokémon along the way, such as Rattata and Thornier. These Pokémon are of different types, but they have one characteristic, that is, they are very weak and malnourished. At the same time, they have a very high tendency to take the initiative to attack. Kuroyu has been attacked by many Pokémon along the way. It seems that the only food for these Pokémon is the trainers who enter the expedition. They can only survive by eating people. Kuroyu quickly figured out the interests involved. In this Kalu tunnel, there are no plants, and the Pokémon basically can't eat each other. Because the visibility here is too low, the Pokémon can't tell the direction at all, and Guaidud can still survive by eating sand and rocks. The rest of the Pokémon can only get food by attacking humans, and carnivorous Pokémon like Zubat will choose to eat human flesh. However, Black Feather has not encountered any danger in the periphery at present, and the Pokémon levels he encountered are generally below level 15. With the cooperation of the two Pokémon, it is very easy to deal with the enemy. Murkrow is already accustomed to killing, and has dealt with many wild Pokémon for Black Feather along the way. Eevee still seems to be unable to accept it. Murkrow is always responsible for the last blow before the death of each Pokémon. Even so, Black Feather is already very satisfied. At least there is no reluctance in Eevee's eyes, and there is no mercy in the attack. You have to eat one bite at a time, and your personality needs to be changed step by step. There is a long way to go, so take it slowly. Black Feather is still very tolerant of Eevee. After going deeper for another hour, Black Feather finally stopped, not only because his own physical strength was consumed very quickly. Even Murkrow and Eevee were exhausted and panting at this moment. Release the Iron Claw to guard the surroundings and be alert to danger. Black Feather held Eevee and Murkrow in his arms and gave them a simple massage to relax their muscles and fatigue. It must be said that the talents of the two Pokémon are really terrifying, worthy of being the products of the gym and the Alliance breeding house. In just a few hours, the combat experience of the two Pokémon increased rapidly, from being slightly injured at the beginning to being able to easily cooperate and deal with wild Pokémon later. Especially the Dark Crow, who seemed to be born for killing, and controlled the timing of the battle very accurately along the way. During the period, the level reached 15, and he also learned the skill of wing attack. Once he mastered it, he would no longer need to use the extremely weak beak. After a short rest, Hei-Yu and the Pokémons replenished their physical strength and continued to explore according to the map. During the period, they also passed by some exposed rock mines on the periphery. After using an alloy shovel to break them, they found that there was only ordinary fine steel inside. Although this mineral has a certain value, it is not worth Hei-Yu to take it away specially. After all, it is too heavy. There are a lot of things in his space backpack, and there is no room for these fine steels. Just when Hei-Yu passed a fork, a very foul smell suddenly came from it. This smell is not a simple smell, but a fishy smell. Especially like the smell of moldy pickled meat. A faint smell permeated the fork, and it floated out from time to time. Yu couldn't help but cover his mouth and frowned. The EV with a keen sense of smell at his feet retreated one after another, looking at the dim fork in the road with disgust. Yu released the iron claw lobster, and bravely picked up the searchlight in his hand and shone it inside. 2 lumps of black mud appeared at the end of the fork tunnel. The name of the Pokémon suddenly appeared in his mind. Sludge. Sludge Pokémon usually feeds on garbage and emits an extremely foul smell. Some environmental protection companies like this kind of Pokémon very much. After all, garbage recycling is a headache, and with sludge, it is easily solved. This is. The afterglow of Yu's searchlight hit the corner, and 2 deep white bones were placed there, and the skulls still emitted a dark light. Yu commanded directly, use the shell blade to kill the iron claw lobster. Just the claw. The iron claw lobster jumped up directly, waving its 2 claws crosswise on the left and right, and knocked the 2 Pokémons out of combatability with just 1 blow. Yu immediately threw out 2 Pokeballs to capture them. Murray, blow away all the stench here. Yu smelled it and finally accepted it. Then he slowly walked into the corner of the fork in the road. 2 neatly arranged skulls and various human bones scattered on the side came into view. Yu was silent, while the little EV next to him was so scared that he hid behind Yu. Murray Crow looked down on the little EV, and then stood on Yu's shoulder indifferently. Smelly Mud is also an omnivorous Pokémon, it eats meat. Yu's faint sigh filled the end of the fork, and his extremely dark pupils exuded a cold light. After burying the 2 skeletons with a shovel, Yu left this dark and dirty place. Beep, beep, beep. As the sound of the Pokémon encyclopedia sounded, Yu checked the information of the 2 stinky muds. One of them inherited a Shadow Fist move, which was a small surprise. Chapter 61. After Yu continued walking, he became much more careful, because the poisonous Pokémons here were really hard to guard against. In the wild, among the many abnormal states, the one that people often least want to encounter is poisoning. Burns, frostbite, paralysis, sleep, these abnormal states are very obvious, and the corresponding potions, tree fruits, etc. can alleviate the state. But poisoning is different. There are many types of poisons, and some poisons are still hidden, temporarily lurking in the human body until they burst out later. It is hard to guard against, so poisonous Pokémons are also known as one of the attributes that should not be provoked. Yu also encountered traces of human habitation in the tunnel, such as a bonfire that had been extinguished in a tunnel fork. Well, this sign. Yu walked to a fork in the road again, and suddenly found a sign standing at the entrance of a tunnel. This tunnel did not seem to be deep. Ying could see a faint light inside from the door, and there was a sign at the entrance. It indicated that someone had temporarily requisitioned this tunnel as a camping base. If someone enters rashly, they will be attacked and the consequences will be at their own risk. Often these small tunnels that are not deep and have been explored will serve as temporary footholds. Just as Yu was about to turn away, a burst of hurried footsteps suddenly came from the tunnel, and Yu hurriedly clenched the alloy shovel in his hand. Even the sound of Murkrow flapping its wings became smaller, and a pair of sharp eyes looked at the exit sharply, ready to launch an attack at any time. In just a dozen seconds, a middle-aged backpacker slowly walked out, and was obviously stunned when he saw Yu, and then hurriedly clenched the shovel in his hand. And this uncle with a backpack was followed by a merry Luri. Just when the 2 sides were on the verge of a fight, the middle-aged uncle suddenly showed a kind smile and blocked Yu's way to enter this branch tunnel. Little brother, there was a landslide in this tunnel, I suggest you don't go in. The middle-aged uncle pointed to the tunnel he had just come out of. Yu took 2 steps back and the 2 sides kept a safe distance. Just as he was about to leave, he suddenly found something wrong. The middle-aged uncle was extremely wet. Even his clothes were dripping with water, and there was a faint smell of blood on his body. Yu, who had drifted on the sea before, was very familiar with this smell, a mixture of water and blood. Although the smell was so faint that it was unrecognizable, when Yu shone the light at the other's feet, he still keenly noticed a trace of blood on the other's boots. Fearing that the uncle would notice, Yu quickly moved the light away, but a guess emerged in his heart. This blood is definitely not the blood of Pokémons, but the blood of humans. Yu was shocked. But on the surface, he remained calm, showing an innocent expression, and said, "Okay uncle, then I will take another way. Sorry to bother you." Yu turned and walked towards another tunnel, and just as he left, he tried to look into the tunnel with the corner of his eyes. The middle-aged uncle seemed to have noticed Heiyu's little action, and hurriedly moved his feet, blocking Heiyu's sight with his body to prevent him from looking into the tunnel. This subconscious action made Heiyu feel even more wrong. After entering another tunnel, Heiyu half squatted and leaned against the stone wall, with a cold luster in his dark pupils. There is definitely something wrong with that middle-aged uncle. There is definitely a secret in that branching tunnel that he doesn't want people to know. Heiyu was not in a hurry to explore this secret, but stayed in this other branching tunnel for a long time before returning to the intersection where he met the uncle just now. There is no trace of the uncle here, and it seems that he has left. Heiyu looked at the tunnel where the uncle tried to cover up the secret, and finally drew a mysterious smile, and stepped in lightly. Not long after Heiyu entered, the uncle walked out from a huge stone wall and looked at the tunnel where Heiyu entered, with a dark look in his eyes. His original honest expression disappeared, and he showed a cruel smile instead. He clenched the blood-stained alloy shovel in his hand and murmured, "You are looking for death yourself, so you can't blame me." Heiyu walked all the way in along the light, and did not find any signs of landslide along the way, which made him more convinced that the uncle was lying. After walking for less than a few minutes, Heiyu finally heard a pit similar to the size of a room at the end of the tunnel. Heiyu did not notice anything wrong, except for some household garbage and human traces in the corner, and turned to look at the Ibrahimovic at his feet. "Little Ibrahimovic, smell it and see if there is anything wrong." Little Ibrahimovic frowned. He raised his little nose, poked his head out to sniff around, and poked at a clearly raised piece of land. With a gleam in his eyes, Heiyu used an alloy shovel to dig out the raised land. After a few shovels, he dug out something that surprised him. A broken hand. Heiyu continued to dig inside, and in just a few minutes, some incomplete human corpses were dug out. After the size of these bones is put together, it is a complete person. Heiyu simply counted them, and these charred bones were quickly pieced together into a human figure in his mind. This is the truth that the middle-aged uncle wanted to hide just now. Is it the uneven distribution after encountering rare minerals? Or is it a scene of vendetta after a long-standing grudge? Heiyu could not guess what kind of love and hatred this corpse had with the uncle before he died. Heiyu released the captured stinky mud, ordered to eat all the bones and meat, and then cleaned up the scene again before leaving. Heiyu walked out of the tunnel vigilantly. As soon as he came out of the tunnel, the middle-aged uncle stood in the middle, as if waiting for Heiyu. "Uncle, you lied to me before. There was no landslide inside." Heiyu stared at the uncle with a half-smile. "Ah," the uncle scratched his head and continued to say honestly, "Ah, is that so? Did you go the wrong way, little brother? After all, there are many forks in this tunnel." The two seemed to have an invisible tacit understanding. They looked at each other without saying anything, but both of them slowly reached their waists. The two people who were originally close to each other gradually distanced themselves. Until the two sides were on the left and right of the fork, and the distance between the two sides was the farthest, the uncle's honest expression disappeared instantly. The kind smile on his face slowly turned into an indifferent expression. "Little brother, did you encounter anything in the fork just now?" The middle-aged uncle had a calm face and stared at Heiyu, trying to find the flaw. Heiyu sneered, "I saw a good show inside." After saying that, he knocked the ground with the alloy shovel in his hand, revealing a mysterious smile. The middle-aged uncle was shocked, and the expression on his face could no longer be suppressed. He roared and asked, "What on earth did you see?" Heiyu glanced at the space backpack behind the middle-aged uncle. In fact, he was a little curious about what could make his companions turn against each other. Even killing people for treasures. Chapter 62. Heiyu was sure that this uncle was definitely killing someone for the first time. Although he seemed calm and well disguised on the surface, this was just a manifestation of decades of experience. In terms of killing methods, this uncle was extremely rough, and even dealt with the corpses in a sloppy manner. It is indeed not easy to be discovered in the intricate tunnels, but if it was left outside, it would probably be directly identified as the murderer by Miss Juncha in a few days. "Uncle, this should be your first time killing someone, right? Don't you know that human bones are very hard and cannot be eliminated by fire? You don't have the spirit to deal with corpses." Heiyu looked at the middle-aged man in front of him with a calm face and said in a calm tone. The middle-aged man's face changed slightly when he heard this, but he quickly regained his composure and replied calmly, "Hey, I don't know what you are talking about." Heiyu raised his mouth slightly, revealing a mocking smile, and continued, "You have blood on your body, so I asked your Pokémon to spray water to eliminate it, but you didn't clean it up, and you didn't even pay attention to the smell. Can't you smell the blood on your body? After speaking, he gently waved the searchlight in his hand to shine on the other's shoes. The middle-aged uncle slowly lowered his head and looked in the direction of the light in Heiyu's hand. His shoes actually had blood stains that were not washed clean. This discovery made his heart tighten, and fine beads of sweat began to appear on his forehead. He raised his head and stared at Heiyu fiercely. His originally expressionless face instantly became extremely gloomy, and his eyes were full of bloodshot, like an angry beast. "You little boy, why do you want to go in?" The middle-aged uncle roared and questioned, his voice filled with endless anger and fear. But this is more like a self-questioning, and his shaking hands show that his heart has fallen into extreme anxiety. "You will be buried here with him." Meryl uses water tail, stinky mud, and mud to attack. The middle-aged uncle directly commanded the Pokémon to attack, and while speaking, he actually wanted to kill again and try to bury the secret in the underground tunnel. In fact, it is not surprising that he has such an idea, because Heiyu's appearance is too confusing. From the appearance, Heiyu, who is still in puberty, is obviously a child, and his clothes are not luxurious. It is obvious that he is just an ordinary trainer who has just started traveling. The Eevee and Murkrow next to him are probably all his Pokémon. The middle-aged uncle can't blame him for thinking so. After all, with his vision, he can only think of this level. When people reach middle age, the level of Pokémon is hovering around level 20, which shows that his origin is not high, and his talent as a trainer is also relatively poor. In addition, he had just dealt with his companion, and his confidence was swelled. Seeing that Heiyu was just a child, he acted decisively. Heiyu directly ordered the two Pokémons to use the hold to prevent this wave of attacks, and then rolled to the corner and released the Iron Claw Lobster. A flash of white light, and the mighty lobster appeared. "Just claw." Heiyu looked at the two Pokémons of the opponent. With his current vision, it was easy to judge the approximate strength of the two Pokémons. The Pokémons were cultivated very ordinary, and their strength was not impressive. The only thing to pay attention to was the fairy attribute possessed by Mary Lully. However, people in this world now seem to have not discovered this attribute, but only listed it as a general attribute. Including the fairy attribute of playfulness, etc., are all classified as general moves. "Is this all your strength? Then I think you will be buried here like your companions." Heiyu used the words just now to taunt back. At this moment, the middle-aged uncle was obviously on the verge of collapse, the pressure of killing, coupled with the aggressive black feather. Especially when the Iron Claw Lobster appeared, his face became paler and paler. Feeling the majestic energy fluctuations on his body, he became more desperate. He realized that he might have been tricked and underestimated the innocent child in front of him. "Mary Lully, Bubble Ray. Smelly Mud, use Sludge Bomb." The middle-aged uncle commanded anxiously. At this moment, his heart was filled with murderous intent, and he just wanted to kill Black Feather and leave him here. Seeing that the other party was extremely crazy, Black Feather had no intention of mocking him, and directly ordered the Iron Claw Lobster to deal with him. Use Shell Blade. The training of these moves these days was not in vain. In addition to the improvement of Dragon Dance, the Iron Claw Lobster also became more and more proficient in Shell Blade. The turbulent water wrapped the claws and hit the body of the stinky mud heavily. Just one blow made it unbearable and painful. Dark Crow, Wing Attack, Eevee use High Speed Star. Heiyu continued to command the other two Pokémon to attack, not giving the opponent any chance a moment of respite. Merrily was restrained by Murkrow and Eevee, and had no time to rescue Mud. The crawfish was constantly waving its claws to attack. The middle-aged uncle was sweating more and more, and his face became extremely nervous. At this moment, he regretted why he didn't train an extra Pokémon. In the wild, others don't care about your fairness. The main theme is to bully the few with more. I have many Pokémons, so I can bully you with the advantage of the number of Pokémons. As another bubble ray hit Mud, he was already a little unstable at this moment, his body was a little limp, and even the secreted toxins dripped to the ground, looking very miserable. The whole battle was one-sided, and as Mud was solved, the crawfish freed up his hands to cooperate with the two little ones to deal with merrily. The whole battle was even more defeated. Even without Heiyu's stepped-up command, the three Pokémons cooperated very closely and soon beat the enemy Pokémon to death. The middle-aged uncle's face was covered with bloodshot, and he screamed, "Why? Why do you all force me?" He staggered and knelt on the ground, looking forward with empty eyes, and his heart was already desperate. After Yu ordered both Pokémon to be killed, he slowly stepped forward, looked down at the uncle and asked, "Now can you tell the truth of the incident, and why did you kill your companion?" Unfortunately, the uncle was no longer in the mood to explain at this moment, but just kept muttering in his mouth, "Why? Why did it become like this?" The regret in his heart has overwhelmed him. He was thinking, if he didn't kill his companions in order to take the treasure for himself, he just had to endure the greed in his heart. Wouldn't it be better to share it together? Yu slowly stepped back and ordered Murkrow to kill it. Looking at the lifeless corpse, Yu was indifferent, and under his extremely dark pupils, a cold light flashed. In fact, this world has always been like this. If you want to make Pokémon stronger and want to go further on the road of trainers, then you must fight. Especially for civilian trainers with no background, the only way out is to fight for resources with their lives. But unfortunately, some people don't even have the qualifications to fight, just like this middle-aged uncle, who has wasted half his life and achieved nothing. It is precisely because of this corrupt system and the cut-off upward channels that ordinary people continue to join the dark organization and become a member of the underground Black Force. Because only in this way can they fight against the Alliance and compete for resources. And the reason why the dark organizations in various regions are more and more, and can never be eliminated, is precisely because of this. Chapter 63. After a brief search of the uncle's body, apart from some scattered Alliance coins, there were only a few empty Pokeballs left. After releasing the mud to clean up all the bones, Yu looked at the two dead Pokemons. A mud. A Marill. This Marill is a little bigger than normal, and the fat around its waist is thicker. It seems to be a thick fat characteristic. Yu used a shovel to cut off the more valuable parts of the two Pokemons, wrap them with special materials, and put them into the space backpack. Finally, he slowly looked at the uncle's space backpack. Murkrow flew away very tacitly, hooked up the space backpack with a pair of claws, flapped its wings, and flew to Yu happily. Yu smiled and stroked Murkrow's head before taking the space backpack. In addition to some sundries, Pokémon food, and energy cubes, there were only 3 bottles filled with cocky mucus. Yu slowly took out the bottle. Under the light, the earthy yellow liquid inside exuded a clean luster. Earth vein stone milk. Yu shouted in surprise. This is a very precious natural treasure. He had seen it in the library of Chinjua Dojo when he was browsing books. It is rumored that this earth vein stone milk is the essence of the earth. As the saying goes, the earth is nectar, and the earth veins are fragrant. This earth vein stone milk is extremely valuable. It is a supreme treasure for rock and ground Pokémons. After taking it, it can greatly improve the Pokémon's qualifications. In the black market, 1 drop is often worth 1,000,000 gold. That's right, it is sold by drop. And there are at least hundreds of drops in the 3 glass bottles in front of him, worth nearly 10 million. Yu finally knew why the middle-aged uncle wanted to attack his companions. No wonder few people can keep their original intentions in the face of such temptation. After all, tens of millions of dollars are enough to buy a good quality starter Pokémon, and there are still millions of dollars left for training. For a civilian trainer, it can definitely be called a reversal of fate, and even if it is planned, it may not be impossible to go further. But if the tens of millions are divided in half, I am afraid no one would be willing to do so. After cleaning up the scene, Yu left this tunnel and continued to explore in another direction. After all, this is not the utopian world in the animation. Where there are people, there are rivers and lakes. Love, hatred, and conspiracy are the main themes here. As the saying goes, you will get what you eat. In this world, only people eating people can go further. After leaving this tunnel, Yu continued to find an unmanned tunnel according to the map. After inserting a sign at the entrance of the tunnel, he asked the Iron Claw Lobster to guard the door. After ensuring safety, he camped in the tunnel, lit a bonfire, made food, and fed the Pokémons. Little Eevee, be good and don't move. Yu placed little Eevee horizontally on his legs, opened her wound covered by hair, and carefully applied medicine. Puff! With 2 sprays of spray on her calf, little Eevee instantly felt a pain. Eevee! The pain and coolness of her calf made Eevee cry out in grievance, and she looked at Yu with tears in her eyes as he treated her wound. She felt very aggrieved in her heart. This was the first time she was seriously injured. She never thought that the battle would be so dangerous. In the past, she could play those wild Pokémon around with tacit cooperation. But this time, she was accidentally injured in the battle against the Pokémon commanded by someone. Little Evie didn't want to let the tears flow down, and the tears hung in the corners of her eyes. Her tearful appearance looked lovable. Yu looked at little Evie's aggrieved appearance, fed her an energy block to relieve the pain, and used skilled massage techniques to help little Evie relieve the pain. Not long after, due to excessive fatigue and the gradual cessation of pain from the wound, the little Evie fell into a deep sleep. Yu carefully put Evie on the soft sleeping mat and covered it with a warm blanket. He breathed a sigh of relief when he did not wake up the little Evie. "Ga. Is it finally Raven's turn?" Yu continued to massage Murkrow until his wrists were sore and he stopped. He shook his wrists and sighed, it's not easy to massage Pokémon. Just as Yu was exploring the Kalu Tunnel, a huge earthquake occurred in Kana's city. The latest research data of Duan Company was stolen. Countless police cars were dispatched, and Miss Juncha from the police department came in person to inquire about the situation. "President Zifuki, are you telling the truth?" The stolen data turned out to be the latest research of Pokémon Navigator. Miss Juncha was stunned by anger, and her breasts kept rising and falling. "That's right, I really didn't expect that there would be an ungrateful person in my company, or that the two of them were undercover agents. President Zifuka didn't expect that the two employees he entrusted with important tasks, Humura and Aquan, actually stole their company's latest research." Juncha, who was standing by, was almost fainted with anger. The Pokémon Navigator was a huge project invested by their Juncha family. This navigator does not need to be connected to the signal tower as before, but can be used directly by connecting to the signal network of Duan Company covering the whole world. In other words, no matter how harsh the environment is, whether it is a volcanic ocean or a wild forest, even a forbidden area that humans have not set foot in, it can be used directly. This is definitely a significant invention for some Alliance investigators and people like them in the police department. Their Juncha family didn't know how much money they spent on this project. After all, once the invention is successful, the biggest beneficiary is their family. But now they told her that the research data was stolen? President Zifuka was even more depressed. What he didn't say was that in addition to the research data being stolen, even the topographic map of their Kalu tunnel was stolen. You know, there are some secrets of their family hidden there. Although it is now deserted, he still feels a little panic in his heart. Since he led the Zifuka family to rise, he hasn't felt this panic for a long time. Looking at the police brigade rushing to the scene, the current patriarch of the Zifuka family, the president of Duan Company, Zifuka Mujin, showed worry on his resolute face. At this time, a phone call came. "Hello, Dad, I heard that the company is in trouble. Do you want me to come back to help?" A crisp voice of a young man came from the other end of the phone. Zifuka Mujin smiled and shook his head, scolding, "Forget it, you little brat, you only know how to hang out with those stones all day long, I guess you can't help if I ask you to come over." The other end of the phone responded, "Hee, Dad, I was influenced by you, right? Didn't you also like to play with stones when you were young?" Zifuka Mujin's depressed mood was somewhat dissipated in the teasing and scolding of the father and son. Before hanging up the phone, he said to the other end, "Daigo, the shining iron dumbbells that the family helped to collect have been found. Come back another day and let him and yours evolve into metal monsters. Combined evolution. It is said that this is a special secret method developed by the Zifuka family, which is only suitable for the quasi-god Pokémon Metagross. It can make two identical Pokémons merge, and after evolution, the qualifications will be significantly improved. Of course, it is estimated that only the leading business family like the Zifuka family can afford this unique evolution secret recipe. The rest, even if they are the direct descendants of a big family, will only let it evolve normally if they get an iron dumbbell. Even if there is the secret recipe of the Zifuka family's combined evolution, it is estimated that they do not have the financial resources to use it." Chapter 64. Yu continued to explore the Kalu tunnel, and during this time he entered countless branch tunnels and witnessed various situations. There were Pokémon corpses in some branch tunnels. There were human camps in some branch tunnels. There were Pokémon eggs in some branch tunnels, but they were already necrotic and lost their breath of life. Every small branch tunnel was like opening a blind box, bringing Yu all kinds of different surprises. Of course, some might be frightened. Yu carefully took the shovel and knocked on the soil wall on the side, with the searchlight in his hand pointing forward. Dark Crow blew away the fog in the tunnel. As the light haze was blown away, Yu finally saw the road ahead and carefully moved forward step by step. He picked up a stone at the side and threw it into the dark tunnel. After a long time, a series of tiny echoes came from the darkness. It seems that this tunnel is not short. Yu stopped moving forward and leaned against the wall to think. This road may be a broken road and fork, or it may lead to another main road. It is necessary to think carefully and plan the route. Dark Crow flapped his wings appropriately not far ahead to dispel the fog. I have gained a lot from this trip. In addition to the great progress of several Pokémons, I also accidentally got the Earth Vein Stalactite. I'd better not be greedy. Yu felt that it would be better to continue exploring on the original road than to risk entering another main road. Even if it was a shorter branch tunnel. Just when Yu was about to turn around, a deafening explosion sounded suddenly in the dark tunnel. Bang! This sound was like something exploding. The echo produced actually crossed countless distances and resounded in Yu's ears. The little Eevee was startled and jumped suddenly, with its soft hair all over its body exploding. Murkrow was also a little flustered by the echo, and its flying rhythm was disrupted. It flapped its wings and barely maintained its balance in the air. But Yu was not angry but happy, and looked at the dark branching tunnel with surprise. This is the roar of Roaring Bomb. Yu couldn't help but smile. He also took on a few tasks on this trip, one of which was to capture a grunt. Roaring Bomb, this Pokémon is the evolution of Grunt, and when it reaches about level 40, it can also evolve into Sonic. Although Sonic's final racial value is only 490, it seems not to match the identity of the third stage of evolution. But he is still loved by many trainers. The reason is that he has mastered a powerful trick called Sonic. This move is one of the most powerful special moves of the general system. According to the official textbook logo, it has a power of 140. It is second only to the Super Impact and Destructive Light with a power of 150. And compared to these powerful moves, the Sonic Wave has no side effects. But correspondingly, the Pokémons who can learn this move are extremely rare. Only 3 Pokémons, the Supersonic Larva, the Sonic Dragon and the Sonic Monster, can learn it. The other 2 are noble and rare dragon Pokémons. When Yu thought of this, his heart was hot. The reward for the task marked to subdue Gunny Unio was not small, and it was settled in alliance points. In order to prevent being seen, Yu turned the light to the lowest brightness, bent his waist and slowly moved forward, slowly walking towards the dark tunnel where the sound burst out. I don't know how long he groped, Yu finally saw a ray of light, and his eyes were filled with joy. But as he got closer, he heard a burst of human voices. Boss, this Pokémon is too difficult to deal with. Its sonic attack is too strong. What are you afraid of? Hold him back. My big wolfhound will bite him to pieces. 2 men in red clothes were seen commanding a coyote and a big wolfhound respectively, fighting with a roar bomb. Judging from the situation, in a 1-on-2 situation, the roar bomb gradually fell into a disadvantage. In addition to the disadvantage in numbers, the more important thing is that the roar bomb has a Gunny Unio behind him, who not only has to distract himself from the battle but also has to protect the Pokémon cub. This caused the scars on the roar bomb's body to gradually increase. Roar! The roar bomb once again launched a powerful sonic attack. A coyote dog that was attacking was instantly blown away, and its body hit the stone wall on the side and fainted. Boss, attack quickly, I can't hold on. One of the men in red clothes said anxiously to his companion beside him. Big wolfhound, use bite and crush. Another man said fiercely. The big wolfhound, which was accumulating strength, suddenly rushed forward, with a pair of sharp teeth dripping with saliva, looking go up to be extremely ferocious. The energy of the evil system gathered, biting the body of the roar bomb madly. But even so, the roar bomb still did not forget to protect the Gunny Unio behind him. Just when the roar bomb fainted and despaired, a blue stream of water rushed over. Iron Claw Lobster use water jet. After observing in secret for a while, Yu appeared and commanded the Iron Claw Lobster to attack the wolfhound. A blue water column directly hit the wolfhound, and the level suppression caused it to be knocked away with just 1 hit. Don't give him a chance, use the shell blade. Yu's cold voice sounded again, without a trace of emotion. The 2 trainers in red on the other side reacted instantly and shouted, You are so presumptuous, don't you see that it is our Pokémon? Yu smiled coldly, so what, now those 2 Pokémon are my prey. The cold eyes swept over the 2 people, and Yu suddenly felt that the clothes on the other side were a little familiar, as if he had seen them somewhere, but he couldn't remember. However, this did not prevent him from snatching the right to fight for this wild Pokémon from the 2. You! One of them was so angry that he wanted to find Yu to argue. The other one turned his body and said something in his ear, which calmed his anger. He looked at the iron claw lobster with some fear, and then he showed a look of sudden realization. Humph, you ocean team are still so unreasonable. I will definitely accuse you to the captain later. The first man in red who couldn't hold his temper said sarcastically. And another companion with a calm face echoed, that's right, our two organizations are obviously in a period of cooperation, but you openly snatched our prey. Yu was originally commanding the Pokémon to besiege the wounded Roar Bomb. Hearing what the two said, he was shocked. Team Marine? Then aren't they dressed like Team Magma? Because the spirit on me is a lobster, the signature spirit of Team Marine, so they thought I was a member of this organization. Yu's smart head reacted instantly, and he did not deny the other party's words, but responded silently. Yu shone the light on the two people. The deep red clothes represented the hotness of lava, and the M-shaped letter on the chest made Yu recall his memory instantly. Team Magma. Yu opened his mouth slightly and murmured in surprise. Without Yu's command, Roaring Bomb also took the opportunity to run into one of the branch tunnels. When Yu looked back again, it had disappeared. The two members of the Magma team said with some gloating, "Hey, friends from the Ocean team, this Roaring Bomb is for you. I hope you can find it again in the complicated tunnel." After that, the two Magma team members took back the Wolfhound and the Coyote Dog and left the tunnel. Yu stared at the other party's back, and was a little worried, so he didn't let the Pokémons take action to keep the two. Now there are many dark organizations in the Hone region. The Ocean team and Magma team are just some of the better developed organizations. And from the tone of the two people just now, the Ocean and Magma team seem to have begun to cooperate secretly. I have the memory verification of my previous life, so I know that these two organizations should rise in the end. Don't provoke them for now. Yu took back the Iron Claw Lobster and called Eevee and Murkrow to continue chasing the Roaring Bomb that had just escaped. Chapter 65. Dark Crow, Attack with Wings. Eevee uses high-speed stars to block. Yu ran in the dark tunnel, the light in his hand illuminated the road ahead, and a monster like Roaring Bomb was swaying its body from side to side to escape. In his arms was a small Gunyu, which seemed to be a Pokémon's cub. Roaring! Roaring Bomb took the opportunity to turn around and attack with another sound wave, and the two Pokémons instantly propped up the protective shield to block the attack. However, in this narrow tunnel, the vibration of the sound wave made the surrounding earth walls somewhat loose, and soil and rocks kept falling down. Drip drip drip! Yu continued to command the Pokémon to attack, constantly closing the distance between the two sides, until he finally saw Roaring Bomb enter a branch tunnel that he had explored. That branch tunnel was a dead end, and Yu had already recorded the mark. Dark Crow, don't rush to chase him. He's trapped anyway. Let's blow away the fog first. After a simple repair, Yu entered the tunnel and stepped on the soft soil, making a rustling sound. Yu frowned slightly. Roaring bombs are very sensitive to sound. If you approach rashly, you will definitely be detected and attacked by the opponent first. No wonder, in this quiet tunnel, roaring bombs, which are very sensitive to sound, are indeed a great place. Yu suddenly realized. As long as you are not flying in the air like Dark Crow, for the roaring bombs, as long as you step on the ground and make a sound, they will be detected by them at the first time. Iron Claw Lobster, if you find that something is wrong, remember to use it to defend it at the first time. To be on the safe side, Yu released the ace Pokémon Iron Claw Lobster. Among all his Pokémons, it is definitely the strongest and most trustworthy. As he stepped into the end of the tunnel, Yu carefully tried not to make any sound. But it seems that the Roaring Bomb family is too sensitive to sound. In an instant, a sound wave attack was launched. Done! The green protective shield was instantly propped up, and the Iron Claw Lobster reacted very quickly to block the sound wave attack. Black Feather waved his hand and commanded coldly, Iron Claw Lobster, use the shell blade to attack the Roaring Bomb. Murkrow, use wings to attack Gunyu. The Murkrow, who had been prepared for a long time, dived and attacked the Pokémon cub in the corner in an instant. The Iron Claw Lobster used its sturdy legs to kick hard, and a pair of claws charged water flow. A phantom of a shell blade emerged and chopped down directly. Accompanied by a desperate wail, the Roaring Bomb, which had long been exhausted and scarred, instantly lost its combat ability and fainted. After Black Feather ordered Murkrow to easily deal with Gunyu, he threw out 2 Pokeballs to capture them one by one. Beep, beep, beep. Gunny Uniu, a whispering Pokémon, usually speaks softly and you can't hear it if you don't pay attention, but if it senses danger, it will scream loudly, which can cause headaches. General attribute Pokémon, gender, male, characteristics, sound insulation, height 0.6 meters, body weight 15 kilograms, slightly poor development, lack of nutrition. Mastered moves, Slap, Echo, Snoring. Inherited moves, Ram. Heiyu took out the Pokémon illustrated book and checked the 2 Pokémons one by one. Gunny Uniu had just passed the larval stage and inherited a ramming move. It's just that there is no food in this tunnel and lacks nutrition. Gunny Uniu is a little underdeveloped. After a few days of conditioning, take it to submit the task. The other Roaring Bomb has reached level 27 and has very good qualifications. Otherwise, it would not be possible to grow to such a level in a tunnel with such a shortage of energy and food. What surprised Heiyu was that the characteristic of the Roar Bomb was actually the hidden characteristic Courage, which allowed general and fighting attribute moves to hit the ghost type. For the Roar Bomb, which is a general attribute, it is an excellent characteristic, widening the attack surface, and relying on the difficulty of sonic attack, it is definitely a good hand. It's a pity that Heiyu did not intend to capture and keep it. He was surprised, just because the Roar Bomb with the Courage characteristic is more valuable. After successfully completing the capture, Heiyu's mission on this trip was also successfully completed. Although he ran into a series of small accidents such as the uncle and the lava team during the period, it was harmless and did not extend any special situation. Heiyu walked back along the way he came, preparing to leave the Kalu tunnel. Because special lime was sprinkled on the road as a mark when he came at the beginning, the way back was very smooth, and he almost didn't get lost. Halfway through the walk, Heiyu looked at the little Eevee beside him. Even though he was panting, he was very stubborn and didn't complain or feel tired. Ibrahimovic has indeed made a lot of progress after this trip. In the past, Eevee was basically a pet that Black Feather kept by his side. He basically never experienced battles and was usually upset when his fur got dirty. After this trip to the Kalu tunnel, Eevee finally grew up, knew the hardships of battle, and witnessed bloody scenes. Although he could not kill as ruthlessly as Murkrow, Black Feather was already very satisfied. Returning to a tunnel where he had stayed before to continue camping, Black Feather and the Pokémon sat around the campfire, enjoying a quiet dinner time. After Black Feather washed the ingredients he brought, he roasted them in the campfire. He had been eating frozen food all the time, and he finally couldn't hold on anymore and had to eat some cooked food. The Pokémons were looking forward to watching their food bowls being poured with a lot of food and energy cubes by Black Feather. Eevee was still so clean, and there was a small tablecloth on the seat where he sat. Unlike the heroic eating methods of the other Pokémons, Eevee picked up a piece of food with his hands very elegantly and put it into his mouth. After finishing his food quickly, the Iron Claw Lobster walked to the entrance of the tunnel and began his duty of guarding. The food that Murkrow eats is the energy cube carefully prepared by Heiyu, in which the ratio of evil attribute and flying attribute is 3:7. Because Murkrow has not learned any excellent evil attribute moves at present, the 3 moves in the inherited moves are all flying. Divine Bird Slam, Feather Perch, and Pecking Drill. It can be seen that its flying talent seems to be better, and Heiyu also intends to cultivate it into a Sky Overlord. But for now, Murkrow has not mastered any of the inherited moves. After all, these moves are too difficult to learn. Even the inherited moves engraved in the bloodline genes are not easy to master, not to mention that Murkrow was born not long ago. Murkrow, who has just learned to fly, has not had time to study the moves. After all, it has to be done step by step. Spirit training is the result of accumulation over time. It is impossible to swallow it whole and become a big fat man. Just as Heiyu was about to take a short break by the wall, there was a sudden noise from the Pokémon book in his hand. Usually, Heiyu's Pokémon books are set to silent, so he was a little confused. Just as he opened it, the Pokémon book automatically jumped to a pattern he didn't recognize. Emergency recruitment of the Alliance. Dear Trainer, you are currently in the Kalu Tunnel, where there are underground Dark Organization personnel activities. Now the Alliance has issued a first-level emergency mission. Cooperate with the police to capture and arrest them. Afterwards, you will be rewarded with Alliance coins based on your contribution. Chapter 66. Just when Heiyu and all the trainers who were exploring the Kalu Tunnel received the urgent call from the Alliance. At this moment, outside the gambling stone shop outside the Kalu tunnel, a whistling police car drove in. A group of policemen in police uniforms surrounded the entire gambling stone shop with a solemn look, and the leader was a heroic female police officer, Miss Junsha. Miss Junsha stood on a huge off-road police car, holding a loudspeaker, and her heroic voice instantly spread throughout the gambling stone shop. Attention, all residents and trainers of the Alliance, there is a high possibility that there are members of the underground dark organization among you now. Please don't panic, follow the arrangements of the police bureau in an orderly manner, and we can ensure your safety. Miss Junsha repeated these words over and over again with the loudspeaker, trying not to cause commotion among the people, but even so, with Miss Junsha's guarantee, people were still panicked. Passing the loudspeaker to the assistant, Miss Junsha asked the technicians, "How is it? Has the emergency mission been issued?" "Don't worry, Captain Junsha, all the Pokémon illustrations in the Kalu tunnel have been issued." Hearing these words, Miss Junsha's heart finally relaxed a little. He directed the police officers to evacuate and separate the crowd in an orderly manner, while continuing to urge the Pokémon troops to support. The moment Heyu received the emergency mission, he didn't dare to stay in the Kalu tunnel for a long time. He hurriedly asked the Dark Crow to explore the way ahead and ran out. As soon as he came out of the tunnel, he was gathered together by the police for personnel sorting. He had no choice but to follow the large force and wait for the Alliance to deal with it. Miss Junsha saw Heyu in the crowd and the Iron Claw Lobster following him, and a trace of suspicion flashed across her face. Among the members of the Dark Organization arrested this time, many of them have lobster soldiers as their Pokémons, which seems to be one of the representative Pokémons of this organization. Name: Heyu. Show me your ID. Heyu was picked out of the crowd by Miss Junsha as expected and was questioned. Hey. Miss Junsha swiped Heyu's ID card on the machine and looked at the information on it, with a hint of doubt on her face. "Sorry, dear trainer Heyu, this is an emergency, so please forgive me." Miss Junsha seemed to have seen Heyu's direct lineage and second-level authority, so her doubts were instantly dispelled. She straightened up, put her long straight legs together, saluted Heyu in a very standard way, and apologized seriously. Heyu nodded calmly, and when he was about to leave, he was suddenly stopped by Miss Junsha, who walked to Heyu and asked for help. "Dear trainer Blackfeather, I believe you have also received the information. We have now issued an emergency mission of the first level of the Alliance. Although it is not a special mandatory mission, as a member of the Alliance, we also hope that you can contribute." Miss Junsha noticed that Blackfeather's strength seemed to be not low. After all, the Pokémon Iron Claw can only evolve when it reaches level 30. Therefore, she wanted to let Blackfeather participate in the battle. As if she was afraid that Blackfeather would not be willing, she hurriedly added, "As long as you can help the Alliance with this emergency mission, you will be rewarded generously after the end." Miss Junsha's tone was very gentle, of course only for Blackfeather. If it were an ordinary civilian trainer, he would have forced him to join the battle team long ago. Blackfeather secretly lowered his head to think. In fact, in his current situation, he did not need to take the risk of participating in such a dangerous mission. He could get a stable reward of Alliance coins by selling energy cubes. Can the reward be exchanged for Alliance points? Blackfeather asked after a brief thought. Alliance points are undoubtedly more precious than Alliance coins. After all, it is the most precious currency under the official exchange reward system. Even if it is just the most common authority, it can be used to exchange for various treasures, energy cubes, and high-quality Pokémon cubs. The higher-level Alliance lineage can even exchange for the 3 royal families and the Alliance training manual. And Heiyu's current second-level authority can exchange for more things, precious Pokémon props, rare Pokémon cubs. As for the third-level authority above, Heiyu is expected to open the exchange for quasi-gods, but I don't know what method there is to improve the Alliance authority. Sure enough, after hearing Heiyu's idea of exchanging Alliance points, Miss Junsha hesitated slightly. "Okay, no problem, I agree on behalf of the Alliance Police Bureau." It seems that Miss Junsha thought of Heiyu's second-level authority and did not make it difficult in this regard, and agreed very quickly. However, she still had a little complaint about Heiyu, thinking that he was taking advantage of the situation. This was the pride of the Junsha family. After all, no one had ever dared to refuse her, and no one dared to raise the stakes in front of her. Miss Junsha looked at Heiyu deeply, and unexpectedly wanted to remember his appearance. When Heiyu entered the group of trainers who had accepted the Alliance's recruitment mission, someone soon came forward to talk, because most people saw that Miss Juncha had personally invited Heyu just now. In addition, the Iron Claw lobster following Heyu was not weak at first glance. In the unknown situation, it was always the choice of most people to keep warm together. But before everyone could greet each other for long, a burst of fire suddenly broke out in the entire Kalu tunnel. Boom! Everyone stared at the tunnel that had collapsed halfway, and Miss Juncha and a group of police officers were also on high alert. Then the figures of 3 Pokémons appeared at the entrance of the tunnel in an instant. Charmer, use fire. Megalodon, bypass the Pokémons and attack the little girl directly, use water jet. 2 figures, one red and one blue, commanded the Pokémons and launched an extremely powerful attack. The aftermath of the attack directly forced the Pokémons of the crowd to retreat. Even Miss Juncha's wind speed dog could not resist this power and barely held up the protective shield. At this time, a huge steel snake slowly raised its head, with a huge body of dozens of meters high, and its silver-white body was blinding in the sun. I saw a girl standing on the head of the big steel snake, commanding with an angry face, "Da Chow Bibi, use the electromagnetic cannon to attack Megalodon, and Radon use Earthquake to attack Charmer." The attacks of the 2 Pokémons were not weaker than each other. The huge electromagnetic energy ball covered the sky above everyone. A shadow flashed and directly hit the Megalodon. Bang! The girl standing on top of the steel snake remained calm and continued to calmly command several Pokémons to fight against the enemy. The people below were fighting a group of ordinary Dark Organization members wearing red and blue clothes, but they couldn't help but look at the main battlefield from time to time. Because the power of those Pokémons was too strong, the aftermath alone shocked their Pokémons into coma. Is this the power of a king-level Pokémon? Miss Juncha stared at the battle between the owner of the Duwan Pavilion and the leader of the Dark Organization above the tunnel in amazement. For a moment, her straight white thighs were a little weak. Heyu also looked at the figure of the girl unconsciously and exclaimed in surprise, "Teacher Duwan." Chapter 67. The melee was still going on, and Heyu was approached by a member of the marine team in blue. "Humph, I didn't expect your Pokémon to be a lobster, let's see whose is harder." The marine team member looked at the lobster next to Heyu provocatively, especially staying on his claws for a long time. The claws are so small, it can be seen that the strength is not very good. The marine team member immediately mocked. Heyu ignored these gossips and continued to command the Pokémons to attack. The reason why the opponent's lobster has big claws is nothing more than the characteristic of super strength claws. The manifestation of this characteristic in appearance is that the claws of the lobster will be a circle larger, but the large claws do not mean strong strength. "Lobster, use the shell blade." Heyu commanded expressionlessly. "Then go head to head. See how I crush you, my Pokémon's claws are better than yours." The marine team man also commanded his lobster to use the shell blade. The 2 lobsters used their sturdy legs to step and leaped into the air, and at the same time used the shell blade. The water attribute energy gathered, the water gradually wrapped around the claws, and the shadow of the shell blade emerged. Boom! Water is invisible, but it is tangible. Although the claws are smaller than those of the opponent's lobsters, in terms of size, Black Feather's lobsters are more than a little bigger than the opponent. The member of the ocean team seemed to have noticed this, and his face was a little embarrassed, but he continued to command the Pokémon to attack. Black Feather released Megalodon and ordered him to use water jets continuously, and with the acceleration characteristics, harass the entire battlefield. "Dark Crow, Little Eevee, you 2 stay by my side and be ready to use defense at any time." Black Feather still attaches great importance to saving his life. After all, only when people are alive can there be a future. Moreover, the group of members of the ocean team and the magma team in front of him are not like those trainers in the league. These people are well versed in the essence of outdoor combat. You don't need to defeat your Pokémon, you just need to kill you. Therefore, although the temporary members of the team seem to be powerful in the battle, 1 or 2 trainers are killed by the enemy Pokémon from time to time. After all, most of the temporary members are not serious trainers, and most of the Pokémon on them are Pokémon that are helpful for mining, such as Guedud and Armstrong. And these Pokémon don't seem to cooperate with the training at all. It is obvious that this group of people are specialized gold diggers. How can a team composed of only these ordinary people resist the members of the Dark Organization who are closely coordinated and powerful? Sure enough, as the lines of defense collapsed, another trainer was torn to death by a big wolfhound. Flesh and blood flew everywhere, and the head rolled into the crowd. The trainers who were temporarily recruited were instantly scattered, and the entire battlefield was instantly in chaos. Some trainers with poor psychological quality became headless flies, ordering their Pokémon to take them away and run around the entire battlefield. Not all trainers have the courage to face the death adventure. Most people accept the call to join the war just for the reward offered by Miss Junsha. Iron Claw Lobster, give him the last water jet. Yu looked at the defeat on the battlefield and was anxious, while constantly ordering the Iron Claw Lobster to attack. As his whole body was wrapped in water, a blue light flashed across the battlefield and suddenly hit the enemy's Iron Claw Lobster. Bang! He was directly hit against the stone wall and fainted. Seeing his Pokémon being defeated, the members of the ocean team immediately cursed at the members of the lava team next to him. Damn, didn't you see that kid's Megalodon running around the battlefield? It's as fast as a blue lightning, why don't you come to help me? The members of the lava team glanced at the angry man, but didn't care much in their hearts. They glanced into the Kalu tunnel, as if there was something important. Although Yu defeated several enemies, the rest of his team was still beaten back. Just when he was about to flee and give up this mission, a series of terrible orange-yellow flames swept towards the enemy camp from the mountains and rivers on the side. Boom! Whoosh! Boom! Whoosh! The flames instantly attacked with a rolling tide of flames. Except for a few members of the ocean team and the lava team who quickly ordered the Pokémons to use protective skills to guard, most of the members of the evil organization died in this world-destroying fire. The whole body was burned, leaving only some bones. Yu looked at the mountains and forests on the side, and dozens of wind-speed dogs stood there, and the unusually handsome dogs let out a powerful howl. Ah! Miss Junsha looked at the many wind-speed dogs in the forest, with a look of surprise on her face, and shouted to the people around, fellow trainers, the support of the Alliance has arrived, hold on to the last moment, victory is just around the corner. As the sound of the loudspeaker resounded throughout the battlefield, morale was boosted, and everyone showed their last trump cards. At this moment, Duwan, Humura, and Aquan, who were commanding the Pokémon war above the Kalu tunnel, also heard the echo from the loudspeaker. Humura and Aquan looked at each other, and they had the idea of escaping in their hearts. The two made the same action, pressing their fingers on a Rubik's Cube on their waists. In an instant, countless small devices broke out of the ground around the Kalu tunnel, and quickly flew towards the special instruments on the waists of the two people. It seemed that these small devices were being recovered. And Duwan, who was standing on the head of the Steelix, saw the two people's actions and understood their thoughts. We can't let these two people escape, we have to entangle them and keep them. Although Duwan always has a generous and gentle personality in daily life, that is within the Alliance. There has always been zero tolerance for these evil forces and underground organizations. The education Duwan received since childhood and the values she has developed make her extremely disgusted with these dark scum. Da Chao Bibi uses ferromagnetic bombs. Fire a steel bomb that sucks the opponent, the attack will definitely hit. Da Chao Bibi, who is suspended in the air by magnetism, instantly launches a steel bomb from his mouth. These bombs are not powerful, but they seem to have some kind of suction, pulling the fire-breathing camel that was originally retreating back to the combat range. Damn, these Alliance dogs are still so difficult to deal with. My fire-breathing camel was sucked away. Hukin's bloated body climbed onto the back of the big wolfhound. Just as he was about to take back his fire camel and run away, he discovered this scene and was immediately extremely angry. Seeing that the fire camel had been sucked away and exceeded the recovery range of his pokeball, even the usually steady Hukin couldn't help but panic a little. Fortunately, the dark-skinned beauty Aquan reminded him, the data collection is complete, our mission has been completed, even if we lose a Pokémon, your boss Xiansong should compensate you when we go back. Aquan's implication was that they should not get entangled here in vain. Since the Pokémon troops of the police department have arrived, the masters sent by the Alliance will surely arrive soon. Although the two of them can fight the King of Heaven together, if a King of Heaven really comes, they will most likely be left behind. And the little girl in front of him, although the other Pokémons are relatively ordinary, the big North Nose is indeed too strong. If you keep the Green Mountains, you will not be afraid of running out of firewood. Hwoken was reminded like this and woke up instantly. But facing the fire-breathing camel that has always accompanied him from weak to strong, he still feels reluctant to leave. He glanced at the people on the Alliance side with resentment, and swore in his heart that he would wait until the boss's plan was completed and the entire continent was expanded. All these Alliance dogs must be killed. And before leaving, these Alliance dogs must not be let off easily, so he patted the big wolfhound riding under him. Use the evil wave on the group of people in the alliance. Chapter 68. All windy dogs, use hold. A sonorous female voice ordered, and all the windy dogs jumped down the forest and came to the trainers to hold up the protective shield. Bang! Boom! Everyone looked in the direction of their gaze, and saw that the great north nose suspended in the air condensed a huge silver beam of light and shot it at the fire camel. Cannon beam, fire! As the battle came to an end, the surviving trainers of the Alliance cheered endlessly, and the police of the Alliance took the captured members of the Ocean Team and the Magma Team into the police car one by one. They will be greeted by torture and interrogation, and it is unknown whether they can really spit out some important information. Yu leaned against a reef, and like most other people, he waited for the Alliance to clean up the scene and then disband. In fact, after the battle just now, everyone around looked at Yu with awe. On the battlefield just now, Yu was definitely a brilliant performer. Most people were helped by the Blue Lightning Megalodon in the battle, not to mention the Iron Claw Lobster, which defeated several elites from the Ocean and Lava teams one after another. All the Pokémons were taken away by the Alliance, and Yu felt a little sorry. You know, he defeated several elite Pokémons above level 31 after another. In the end, he didn't get any trophies, and all of them were used to help the Alliance. If I'm not satisfied with the Alliance points later, I will. Yu couldn't help but complain in his heart. However, when he felt a pokeball on his chest, Yu hurriedly covered it up, as an absolute egoist. How could Yu work for the Alliance for nothing? As early as the melee just now, he took the opportunity to sneak and find a pokeball. It was a high-level wolfhound, reaching above level 30, and seemed to be the main Pokémon of the Ocean Team members. I just don't know why it was not used in the previous battle. Yu guessed that it should be the opponent's trump card, reserved for escape. It's a pity that I didn't have time to escape, and was burned to ashes. Yu thought of the jet flames of the group of wind speed dogs, and looked at the charred land with lingering fear. The land seemed to be turned over, showing a different color from the surrounding area. He glanced at the other league trainers who were in a bad situation around him, but felt a burst of contempt in his heart. They were too naive. League trainers, especially those who traveled for a short time, are more naive and have not experienced the darker side of this world. Any experienced trainer walking in the gray area would be like Yu, secretly taking the opportunity to make a profit for himself. Among the dozens of surviving league trainers, Yu only saw a few people like him, smiling at each other, and tacitly understood. He retracted his gaze and no longer cared about others, holding the Megalodon in his arms. The rough scaly skin made Yu uncomfortable. But he still took out a small spray of medicine from his arms and treated several Pokémons one after another. Yu still prefers to do it himself in terms of cultivating Pokémons. Lucky. The lucky egg next to him slowly came over, took out a milky white egg from his arms, and fed it to the Iron Claw Lobster very gently. Just the claw. The Iron Claw Lobster looked back at Yu hesitantly, and only accepted the egg reluctantly after getting his consent. After breaking it, he stuffed it into his mouth piece by piece. In an instant, the scratches on the surface of the Iron Claw Lobster disappeared in an instant, and the pink and white particles slowly covered the wound. In a flash, a brand new and shiny shell reappeared. Just the claw. The Iron Claw Lobster waved its proud claws, and the five-pointed star on its head shone brightly. Hello, Miss Junsha. Thank you for your hard work, Miss Junsha. Miss Junsha, who was heroic and valiant, slowly walked towards the camp where everyone was resting. The trainers around her stood up and greeted her. There were even wounded people who ignored their bodies, which shows the lofty status of Miss Junsha. Thank you for your hard work. The medical team sent by the Alliance is coming one after another. I am here on behalf of the Alliance Police Bureau to thank you for your contribution. The people of Kana City will not forget your contributions, the Police Bureau will not forget your contributions, and the Alliance will not forget your contributions. Miss Junsha knows how to control people's hearts very well. Because of her noble background, she seems to have received training in this area since she was a child. Just a few words calmed everyone's hearts, and everyone cheered again, shouting "Long live the Alliance!" As for the ordinary trainers who were killed and injured in the Alliance just now, no one mentioned them again, and everyone seemed to have forgotten them. Everyone is now only concerned about when they can get the reward offered by the Alliance. Miss Junsha, wearing high heels, with her green hair thrown behind her, walked slowly to Yu with her long legs. Everyone looked at Yu with envy, thinking in their hearts, it seems that this young man is going to be very successful. Miss Juncha, who had been sorting out the scene and managing the police officers, finally had some free time with the arrival of the Alliance personnel. There was a touch of admiration in her eyes when she looked at Heiyu, especially Heiyu's performance in the battle just now, which made her feel fortunate for her foresight in inviting Heiyu to participate in the battle. Heiyu's direct lineage and second-level authority did give her great determination. At the same time, compared with other people, Heiyu's contribution was indeed the greatest. Facts have proved that her invitation was very correct. If it weren't for Heiyu's megalodon running rampant on the battlefield and assisting everywhere, I'm afraid the defense line they maintained would soon collapse. They couldn't hold out until the arrival of the Wind Speed Dog Corps sent by the Alliance Police Bureau. Trainer Kuroyu, thank you for your hard work. Miss Juncha put her long white legs together and saluted in a standard way. Her whole body was straight, showing off her plump and beautiful figure. The other trainers around her were reluctant to look away. Kuroyu pretended to be tired, propped up his body against the stone, raised his trembling hand, and saluted in return. This action made Miss Juncha even more distressed. Miss Juncha, this is my duty. Trainers of our generation in the league should fight against evil and punish illegal things. Kuroyu's voice was neither too loud nor too soft, just loud enough for everyone around to hear. This righteous speech made the people around who had just secretly made up stories about him give him a thumbs up. Young and promising. Genius boy. League rising star. Miss Juncha was amazed after hearing these words. She quickly took out the notebook on her chest and wrote them down as a quotation. Prepared to use it for a speech at the Alliance Commendation Conference. When she looked at Heiyu again, her eyes were filled with admiration. Originally, due to Heiyu's direct lineage and second-level authority, she thought he was a child of a big family. He must have never been on an adventure in the wild and was a complete greenhouse flower. But what she said just now, plus her performance on the battlefield, made Miss Juncha sure that Heiyu was an extremely strong practical trainer. Trainer Heiyu, the Alliance is lucky to have you. Miss Juncha's eyes were shining. When Heiyu heard this, he looked at the Alliance flag fluttering in the wind. Although he couldn't help laughing in his heart, he still looked righteous. It's my blessing to join the Alliance. Chapter 69. After a brief conversation with Heiyu, Miss Juncha admired the young man more and more, and she had the idea of attracting investment. But it was obviously not appropriate to bring it up at this occasion, so she continued to wander around the camp and began to appease people. While the Alliance was stable, above the Kalu tunnel, Du-Wan was giving a simple information report to the Alliance personnel. And the chairman of Duan Company, Zifyuki Mujin, was telling the whole story. Yes, Hyukin and Akwan have been lurking in our company for a long time. They not only stole our company's first research data, but also the topographic map of the Kalu tunnel. Old man Zifyuki Mujin was complaining about the evil deeds of the dark organization with a sad face. If others saw it, they would probably think that the lonely old man was bullied. But the leader of the Alliance army beside him was a little ashamed when he heard it. Who doesn't know that old man Mujin is also a powerful king? Known as the revival master of the Zifuka family, the savior of Duan Company, and the founder of the business empire. Du-Wan suddenly asked at this time, strange, they stole the data, they could have escaped directly and quickly, why did they come to the Kalu tunnel to make trouble? Thinking of the small instrument recovered by the other party during the battle just now, Du-Wan asked straightforwardly. The expressions of several people on the side were a little embarrassed, and they thought to themselves, why did this little girl ask so directly? Zifuka Mujin said a few vague words. This was originally an Pokémon breeding base of our family, a living area specially used for placing Pokémon cubs, but it was abandoned later. Old man Mujin said that he didn't know why the two dark organizations suddenly attacked the Kalu tunnel. The dark organizations this time are the Ocean Team and the Lava Team. According to the information just asked, the two organizations seem to have started a short-term cooperation. The Alliance Legion leader received the information reported by his subordinates in his earphone, so one of them said to several important senior personnel present with concern. Du-Wan still looked straight forward. She seemed to be in sharp contrast with the cunning people present at the scene. She often said something that made them speechless. Little Du-Wan, my Alliance army is already in charge here. You go down and calm people down. After all, you are the gym leader of Kana City. The average age of the people present was over 40 years old and they were well versed in the ways of the world. Therefore, they hurriedly found a reason to send away the incompatible Du-Wan. Du-Wan seemed to have noticed something was wrong. Her pretty face turned red, but she couldn't help thinking of Heiyu's calm look and control of the overall situation. She left the tunnel in depression and walked towards the camp in the mountains. When Duwan was about to comfort the people who had just fought for the alliance, suddenly, she saw a familiar figure in the crowd. Heiyu. She looked surprised. But he quickly realized that Miss Juncha standing next to him was talking and laughing with Heiyu. Somehow, he felt depressed. He walked straight forward and wanted to find Heiyu to ask him clearly. After the emergency call-up mission issued by the alliance was over, everyone recorded their statements one by one and were dismissed for free activities. When Heiyu was about to leave, a figure suddenly stopped him. Teacher Duwan. Heiyu, you are here too. I didn't notice you just now. Duwan originally wanted to ask angrily, but suddenly realized that the relationship between her and Heiyu was just friends. So when she ran to Heiyu to stop him, she was suddenly at a loss for words. For a moment, she was a little overwhelmed and could only respond awkwardly. But at the same time, she did not forget the question just now, so she asked indirectly, Ms. Juncha is so heroic. I wish I could be like her someday. When Heiyu heard this, his hair stood up all over his body, and he looked at Duwan beside him with some surprise. Heiyu keenly noticed the girl's thoughts, so he responded pretentiously, Teacher Duwan also showed her power just now and drove away the leader of the dark organization. In my opinion, you are the patron saint of Kana's city. Duwan had heard many words of praise in the past, but those people seemed to be flattering her identity. But when she looked at Heiyu's clear eyes, especially when she heard his praise, she couldn't help but feel secretly happy. The two talked to each other, and finally left the Kalu tunnel together and walked into the city. Miss Juncha, who was about to see Heiyu off, watched all this from behind, thinking to herself, I didn't expect that Heiyu and the owner of the Duwan Pavilion had such a good relationship. Look at the information level on him needs to be improved. After returning to Kana's city, Heiyu said goodbye to Duwan and ran to the Pokémon Center without looking back. As soon as he entered his room, he immediately threw himself on the bed. I didn't expect that just wanting to train the Pokémon would involve so many things. Heiyu looked up at the ceiling, his hands stretched out in the air, as if trying to grab something. The human bones buried at the bottom of the Kalu tunnel. The betrayal of the cunning uncle to his companions. The preciousness of rare Pokémon and karst. The intrusion of the ocean team and the lava team. The urgent recruitment mission of the alliance. Things were recalled one by one in his mind. He had experienced so much in just a few days, and he didn't rest well in the underground tunnel. So as soon as he lay on the bed, he relaxed his whole body and soon fell asleep. When he woke up the next day, Heiyu looked at the headlines published on the Illustrated Network, and a different emotion emerged in his heart. The Dark Organization attacked the important base of the Alliance, and the Alliance army cooperated with the trainers to successfully repel it. After reading the entire report, it was all praising the victory and glory of the Alliance, and criticizing the Dark Organization. On the contrary, there was no mention of the number of deaths of the trainers who were urgently recruited. Heiyu laughed and swiped the illustrated book with his backhand. He opened the space backpack and was about to clean up the various spoils and harvests of this trip. The door suddenly rang. Heiyu hurriedly put all the spoils back into the space backpack, and only opened the door with confidence after making sure there were no personal belongings in the room. Standing at the door was Miss Juncha from yesterday. As for Miss Juncha, they all looked the same, so why could Heiyu recognize her? Heiyu did not have Xiaogang's squinting beauty identification eye function. He could tell that it was because the police number in her police uniform was 001. After Miss Juncha opened the door, she subconsciously glanced at the environment in Heiyu's room, and then in an instant she looked away. The spirit was withdrawn. But Heiyu still noticed it keenly, so he made way for Miss Juncha and signaled that she could enter. Sorry, I have observed too many crime scenes, so I acted subconsciously. Miss Juncha responded rather awkwardly. Heiyu naturally waved his hand and said it was okay. Miss Juncha seemed to think it was okay, and she actually walked in openly. Perhaps because she lived in the pursuit and admiration of the public, Miss Juncha developed a self-centered mindset. Chapter 70. Miss Juncha sat on a chair in the room without Heiyu's consent and said to herself, Trainer Heiyu, in view of your outstanding performance in the Alliance recruitment mission yesterday, I will give you a corresponding reward on behalf of the Alliance. In addition to 50,000 yuan in cash, 500 Alliance points have been deposited into your account. After speaking, she took out a stack of cash from her pocket, put them neatly on the table, and then stood up. Miss Juncha looked at Heiyu, her handsome face full of heroic spirit showed a smile, and said, I hope you can continue to maintain your excellent performance and make more contributions to the alliance. I wish you all the best. After saying these words, Miss Juncha nodded gently, then turned and left, leaving Heiyu standing alone in the room. Heiyu looked at the alliance coins on the table, thinking. 500 alliance points, about 500,000 alliance coins, the alliance seems a bit generous. Heiyu was puzzled, but the benefits that were given to him for free were naturally impossible to return, so he took it for granted. Miss Juncha was in a good mood when she walked out of Heiyu's room. The recent series of events have made her merits in the alliance rise sharply, and she may have a chance to be promoted in the future. But distributing rewards is indeed a lucrative job. Heiyu is a direct descendant of the alliance and has second-level authority. We can't embezzle from him. Miss Juncha looked back at Heiyu's door and thought regretfully. Among the dozens of alliance trainers participating in this battle, there are civilians, direct descendants, and people with a strong background like Heiyu. If it is a civilian trainer, Miss Juncha will intercept all the rewards without hesitation. Anyway, he is just a civilian, so she is not afraid of offending him. If it is a direct descendant, Miss Juncha will not be so easy to operate, but most of them will deduct 1 or 2% from their rewards, and eventually flow into their own wallet. Just when Miss Juncha was happily thinking about her dream of getting rich, the phone on her waist suddenly rang. Hello, Captain Juncha? A group of civilian trainers suddenly gathered at the entrance of the police district, saying that we embezzled their alliance rewards and wanted to ask for an explanation. On the other side, the voice coming from the phone was extremely noisy, and it seemed to be accompanied by some kind of shouting. Miss Juncha showed a trace of sarcasm on her heroic face, and said disdainfully, a few lowly civilians dare to ask me for an explanation? Just arrest them all and charge them with the crime of provoking trouble. A few respectful voices came from the other end of the phone immediately. Miss Juncha has done similar things countless times and has almost never failed. Even if something really happened and caused public opinion to ferment, it can be quickly suppressed with the foundation of the Juncha family. Even the alliance can only let the Juncha family do this. Or in other words, the Juncha family itself is an integral part of the alliance, and the two sides have long been in each other's company. Heiyu slowly walked towards the room, came to the lobby of the Pokémon Center, walked to a self-service machine and started operating it. Hand over Gunny Unia first. After a series of heated discussions with the buyer who posted the task, Heiyu finally succeeded in getting a satisfactory price. Looking at the increasing alliance points in his account, Heiyu was in a good mood. Needless to say, he directly paid for the cultivation manuals of the Iron Claw Lobster and Megalodon. The remaining points were barely enough to exchange for the cultivation manual of Murkrow. Heiyu simply spent all his points. After all, he was about to leave the city, and there was no Pokémon Center in the wild during this period. Instead of leaving the points in the account for nothing, it is better to spend them as soon as possible and convert them into something useful for himself. It's just that the Pokémons in the backpack are really hard to sell. I'd better be patient and sell them on the black market later. Recently, due to the riots caused by the two major dark organizations, the black market will definitely usher in a period of turmoil. Heiyu didn't want to take risks again. Anyway, he now has a lot of resources and alliance coins in his backpack, and he is not short of money. Taking advantage of the fact that the hall was still relatively empty in the morning, Heiyu found the front desk and opened a training ground. Dark Crow, come out. Heiyu took out a luxurious ball from his waist, and with a flash of white light, he released the Dark Crow. Ga. As soon as the Dark Crow was released, it spread its wings and flew around Heiyu's head. Dark Crow, your task today is to try to master the tailwind. This is one of the primary skills you will train as a flying system in the future. You must not be careless. Heiyu carefully instructed, and at the same time, let the Dark Crow land on his shoulder. Take out the weight ring from the space backpack and adjust it to the second gear. At present, the strength of the Dark Crow is rapidly improving, and it can be said that it is different every day. With the scorching sun, the sun was shining brightly, and the whole morning passed slowly. Dark Crow, tailwind. Heiyu stood in the corner of the training ground in the shade to avoid the sun, and at the same time, he did not forget to give orders. Dark Crow's speed racial value is 91, which is considered to be in the middle among all the Pokémons, but after evolving into Ravenhead, the speed racial value will drop to 71. Therefore, after evolution, the Tailwind skill is urgently needed to make up for this deficiency, not to mention that the characteristic of Mischief Heart is a perfect match. In addition to being able to perform more quickly when using it, even when learning transformation skills, you can draw inferences and have a higher level of understanding. As Dark Crow turned around, the black feathers on his wings shook, and an invisible breeze appeared around him. Tailwind, after using it, can increase the speed of all our Pokémons. Not only in the regular competitions of the Alliance, but especially in the wild team battles, it can be called a magical skill. Seeing the breeze around Murkrow gradually dissipate, Heiyu commanded again, "Feel the power of the breeze, keep this energy going." Tailwind, mainly reflected in the word smooth. Murkrow followed the instructions of the trainer and slowly gathered the flying energy around him, forming a stream of airflow around his body. The breeze appeared again, and Murkrow felt his whole body suddenly relaxed, and his speed increased again. Flying continuously between training grounds, it is impossible to distinguish with the naked eye. Before he could see it, a black shadow flashed by quickly. Don't stop the tailwind. The flying energy needs to be precisely controlled again. 2 more breezes have slipped away, Murkrow, be more serious. Once the training started, Heiyu's expression changed instantly. Like a ruthless machine, he kept commanding and issuing training orders. Of course, all this is not because he is cruel, but as a breeder, he can judge where the limit of the Pokémon is. The amount of training he has set now will neither make Murkrow feel pain nor overly hurt the Pokémon. Okay, Murkrow, stop. Heiyu looked at the time recorded on the stopwatch and saw that it had improved a lot compared to the beginning. Murkrow flapped its wings and landed on Heiyu's shoulder panting, waiting obediently for the trainer to take off the weight ring for him. Heiyu touched Murkrow's messy feathers and said with a smile, "Let's go back to the room and comb your hair." Murkrow leaned tiredly on Heiyu's neck and opened his mouth to make a caca sound. Chapter 71. In the few days after returning to the Pokémon Center, Heiyu has been giving special training to several Pokémons in terms of skills. I don't know if it was stimulated by something, or perhaps it was because he saw the bloody melee with the Dark Organization, but EV trained particularly hard. Especially in the skill of holding, except for the crawfish who learned it early, the other two, Megalodon and Murkrow, who learned to hold with EV using the skill disc, were left behind. At present, EV's holding can react instantly, and it is almost impossible to be attacked by sneak attacks. And recently, he has begun to master the genetic skill Yawn. Heiyu couldn't help but feel relieved, and lamented that although this trip to the Kalu Tunnel was full of ups and downs and twists and turns, it was still worth it. At least Murkrow has been able to integrate into the entire Pokémon team after the bloody baptism, and EV no longer resists hard training and begins to become diligent. A few days passed quietly, and Kana's city returned to peace again. After all, although the news a few days ago was big, it was not the business of ordinary people. It's time for everyone to eat, drink, and go to work. It's time to sell Pokémon. Heiyu walked out of the Pokémon Center and came to the black market, wearing a black robe and mask to hide his presence. Entered the black market in Kana's city again. Like a drop of water falling into the sea, there are many people in the black market who are wrapped from head to toe like Heiyu, without revealing a single flaw. Heiyu first went to the stall area, where Pokémon were sold, and took a quick look at the stalls. During this period, he also saw a Pokémon that made his eyes light up, a Nidolong with the Vitality attribute, which would eventually evolve into a Nidoking with the Force attribute. The Force attribute will make the additional effects of the moves disappear, but it can increase the power of the moves by about 30%. Combined with the Life Orb, each time a move is used, the power will increase, but a small amount of life and stamina will be lost. Such a mobile turret Nidoking is a killer on the battlefield. Unfortunately, Heiyu has no intention of cultivating poison and ground attribute Pokémon. However, this Nidoking with Vitality is very popular. Although its qualifications are very ordinary, it was sold at a high price of 300,000 Alliance coins. It seems that the Vitality characteristic, or the Forced Nidoking, is indeed very popular. However, the evolution requires the use of Moonstone, so the people who offer the price are very hesitant, otherwise the price may be higher. Then, he walked to the store area, found a store that buys Pokémons, tightened the mask under the black robe, and slowly stepped into the store. The whole store is mainly decorated in a dark grey style, and there are also patterns of Pokémons such as Gengar and Soul Eyes printed on the wall, which looks quite weird. Heiyu looked at the few customers in the store and walked slowly to the front desk, saying, "I want to sell Pokémons." Faced with Heiyu's indifferent tone, the clerk seemed to be indifferent, pointed to a small door behind him, and continued to fiddle with the toys in his hand. Yu did not say much nonsense, pushed open the small door, and entered a long passage. It was not until he walked a long way that he reached the end, and he also met another black-robed man coming towards him in the passage. After looking at each other for a few seconds, the two sides staggered to the left and right. There was no much conversation between them, but when they passed by each other, they unconsciously tightened the Pokémon balls on their waists. When the distance between the two sides was far away, they subconsciously breathed a sigh of relief. Finally, Yu entered a small room, where a middle-aged man was sitting, wiping his glasses. His dark brown suit looked quite sophisticated. "Haha, the customer is here, sit down, and take out the goods." The middle-aged man put down the glasses he was wiping in his hand and said to Yu with a smile. Without saying a word, Yu slowly stretched out his hand in a black robe, took out 4 Pokeballs, and placed them in a glass box beside him. The middle-aged man subconsciously glanced at Yu's outstretched hand and found that it was all covered by gloves, so he quickly retracted it. He thought to himself, it seems that he is an old hand. There is no flaw. Yu naturally discovered the other party's small movements and laughed strangely twice. He, this friend should bid quickly. The middle-aged man laughed awkwardly a few times, and then put a few Pokeballs into the machine in the corner of the room for testing. A roaring bomb, a small Guadud, and 2 slime. Hey! One of them actually inherited the Shadow Fist, which is not bad. The middle-aged man made a simple evaluation, and after a little thought, he gave a slightly lower price. 550,000 alliance coins, this is the highest price I can give, and this is still considering that the level of roaring bomb is not low and the slime has inherited a skill. Yu sneered and raised his hand to take the Pokeballs. After taking the ball back, he said mercilessly, "You are really ignorant. I suggest you check it again. Your detection machine is probably an antique." When the middle-aged man heard what Yu said, he quickly reached out to stop him and went to the machine to do another test. This time it took significantly longer than before. After a long time, he bent over and poured Yu a cup of tea again, and smiled and said, "We were negligent just now, sir. Your little Guadud has the hidden characteristic of sand hidden, and the roaring bomb has the hidden characteristic of courage. We can give you 750,000 alliance coins." Yu's face hidden under the mask showed a mocking smile. Detection negligence? Is there anyone who believes such a childish thing? Even the Pokémon Encyclopedia can detect the characteristics of Pokémon, not to mention such a sophisticated instrument. These people walking in the black zone are really profit-oriented and cunning. Yu leaned back in his chair, with his hands casually placed on the table, tapping the table rhythmically. The steaming teacup on the table emitted puffs of smoke. After a long time, Yu said, "If you are not sincere, I believe other shops will be happy to trade with me." After this, the middle-aged man finally had a different expression on his face, no longer an awkward smile. A shrewd look flashed in his eyes, and he said solemnly, 80W alliance coins, this is the highest price I can offer. If the customer is not satisfied, I can only reluctantly give up this business. After saying this, regardless of how Yu answered, the man sat on the chair and continued to wipe the lenses of the glasses. No one knew the expression hidden under the mask of Yu, but after a long time, a voice slowly came from under the mask. Deal. Both parties were happy and completed the transaction after negotiating the price. After Yu walked out of the store, the alliance coins on his body soared again, and he found some sundries on his body to sell to the store. For example, the precious parts of the Pokémon corpse. For example, the common minerals found in the tunnel. Another example is the notes on Pokémon breeding compiled by others. There is still one big wolfhound left to sell. Yu wandered on the road of the black market, and people kept a vigilant distance between them. Whenever someone cast their eyes on Yu, the iron claw lobster beside him would make a ferocious cry. It intimidated those who walked in the black area. Chapter 72. Most people were indeed shocked. After all, the iron claw lobster can only evolve when it reaches level 30. He is already a small master in the black market, and no one is willing to provoke him for a small matter. Yu strolled around the black market casually, and noticed a few obscure eyes sweeping over him, and then quickly moved away. Yu sneered, thinking to himself, there are so many restless people in the black market. Just entering and leaving the store once, have you been noticed? Yu pretended to stop in front of a stall and pick up items, but the corner of his eye under the mask glanced at the people who were observing him in secret. Yu walked along with the crowd, pretending to leave, and after a few turns, he got rid of the people following him. By the time the other party reacted, Yu had already disappeared and appeared in a quaint shop. Yu's current savings, including the 800,000 obtained from selling the Pokémons just now, is nearly 3 million alliance coins. It would be a waste if he didn't spend so much money. Just came here to pick out any available materials. The environment in the store seemed rather cold, and the number of people was sparse. All the customers' attention was attracted by the intermediate and high-level energy blocks on the counter. But Yu did not look there, but instead looked at the various strange materials on the counter. The reward I got from the trainer school before, a formula for an intermediate universal evil energy block. There are many materials that are difficult to purchase on the market, and now there are just some here. Yu went around and bought many strange materials under the strange eyes of others. A fang of houndoom. A heart of vulture. A piece of waterstone fragment. A bunch of Pidgeot's crown feathers. In addition, there are a large number of tree fruits and rare medicinal materials. In the end, Yu spent 700,000 alliance coins to collect all the materials in his pocket. In the puzzled eyes of others, he left the store quickly with some brisk steps. Sure enough, it still attracted attention. Walking slowly on the road of the black market, Yu noticed that there were several figures following him. Yu once again had a deeper understanding of the darkness of the black market. Here, as long as you show a little wealth, the group of people walking in the black area will pounce on you like hyenas. Yu found an opportunity to get into a crowd of people watching a store. When he came out again, the black robe on his body had been taken off and disappeared. Only a thin boy wearing a mask was left. Turning his head to look at the few people who were still staring at the crowd and waiting for him to come out, Yu showed a hint of sarcasm at the corner of his mouth. After going around in circles, he entered a store that specializes in selling skill discs. Compared with the deserted previous stores, this place seemed much more lively. There were dozens of people like Yu who came to choose skill discs in the whole store. Looking from the outside to the inside, it was weird. Yu's arrival did not cause any waves. Everyone only stayed on his mask for a moment and quickly retracted their sight. There is an unwritten rule in the black market. Once you stare at someone's face for a long time, it means provocation, and both sides will fight. Yu began to look at the samples displayed in the store. He was not interested in most of them, either because their attributes did not match or they were too common. The only rare thing in the entire store might be a skill disc of hot water and provocation. The price of the two skills is 400,000 and 500,000 respectively. After a brief thought, Yu bought the two skill discs. Iron Claw Lobster currently lacks a special attack type trick. Bubble Ray is not enough for it now, and Provocation is bought for Murkrow. As the assistant of Mischief's Heart, Provocation is a must-learn skill. Yu always hates those shield-oriented and receiving-oriented Pokémons who use disgusting moves. Well, of course, if you use it yourself, it doesn't matter. For the sake of safety, so as not to be targeted by others for showing off his wealth, Yu went in and out of the store twice, wearing two different outfits, and bought the skill discs respectively. Next, Yu bought some small things that he found strange in some other stores. For example, a rotten flower grew on a stone. Even Yu couldn't find any information in the online library of Chinjua Dojo. He could only guess that it should be the first new variety born in the world, which is the first generation of hybridization. It has considerable research value. After bargaining, Yu successfully bought it for 3,000 alliance coins. Finally, he rented the skill learning machine of the Pokémon for a short time at the black market base and put the two skill discs he bought into the machine. The CDs were given to the Iron Claw and Murkrow respectively. The nearly 3 million alliance coins on his body dropped to just over 1 million in an instant. In just 2 hours, more than 1 million alliance coins were spent like water. For a poor family, they may not be able to get so much money in their lifetime, but for an ambitious trainer like Yu, this is just a small expense on the road to success. Found an inconspicuous shop in the corner of the black market and sold the Wolfhound for more than 300,000. It was a small recovery. After all, although the Wolfhound is of a high level, it was once someone else's Pokémon. It is not easy to tame such an Pokémon, and it is generally done by some professionals. What's more, Pokémons with high levels and established breeding directions are often not popular. Compared with an Pokémon cub, their value will be greatly reduced, and most people buy them just to use them as temporary Pokémons. After all the problems were solved, Yu left the black market, which was a perfect end to this trip to the black market. Back to the Pokémon Center again, Joey Chun was still at the front desk, looking around the hall, as if looking for something. When she looked at Hei-Yu again, her eyes were obviously brightened, and her slender hands picked up the white nurse's skirt, and trotted towards Hei-Yu. Hei-Yu, you are finally back. Hei-Yu looked at Joey Chun, who suddenly appeared in front of him, and asked, Sister Xiao Chun, what's wrong? Is there anything urgent? Joey Chun's face was a little unnatural when she heard Hei-Yu's address to her, as if she was still brooding over the last time Hei-Yu rejected her. But she still sorted out her mood, gently patted her slightly heaving chest, and said softly, Hei-Yu, I just received an urgent call from Chinjua Gym, it seems that there is something urgent to find you. Hei-Yu's mind moved, and he took out the Pokémon book from his waist, and indeed found several missed notification calls. Before entering the black market, Hei-Yu turned off the Pokémon encyclopedia. Hiss! How could I forget about this? Hei-Yu quickly said goodbye to Joey Chun and rushed back to the room. Chapter 73. After returning to the room, Hei-Yu immediately closed the door, opened the illustration, and called back the video call. Beep beep. After just a few seconds, the call was quickly connected and a cute pink face appeared on the other side of the video. Big brother! A surprised cheer came from the illustration. Hei-Yu's face relaxed, and he pretended to be gentle and said, It's Xiao Ao, why did you suddenly remember to call me, are you bored staying at home again? Xiao Ao on the other end of the video call looked at the familiar face on the screen, and her face was filled with joy. Her big eyes narrowed unconsciously, her eyebrows curved, and the corners of her mouth curled up. No, big brother, it's my dad who is looking for you, but he is still in the gym challenge. Xiao Ao's tone was full of resentment. Xiao Ao was very dissatisfied with this father who was busy all day long. In order to get closer to him, she had to go to the battlefield to cheer for her father. Big brother is still the best. Xiao Ao looked at the star-spotted flower placed at the head of her bed, and a sweet feeling rose unconsciously in her heart. Hei-Yu couldn't help but chuckle and comforted, Xiao Ao, I tell you, this trip is very interesting. Hei-Yu began to tell Xiao Ao the story of this trip. But of course it was modified, and the story was full of innocence, joy, and sunshine. As for the underground cave killing and stealing treasures, fighting the dark organization, and wantonly slaughtering Pokémons and selling them on the black market, these processes were of course cut out by him. But even so, Xiao Ao, who has never left home since childhood, still listened with relish. The good impression of the big brother in my heart, one more point. Big brother is so good. Just when Hei-Yu was talking dry, Mr. Qunli's voice finally came from the other end of the phone. Okay, Xiao Ao, give the illustration to daddy quickly, I want to talk to your big brother about business. Xiao Ao looked at Mr. Qunli with grievance, but it was a pity that this trick of acting cute seemed to have lost its effect. Lolyalu. Finally, with Xiao Ao's funny expression, the Pokémon illustration fell into Mr. Qunli's hands. Hei-Yu quickly straightened his expression and said respectfully, Mr. Qunli, good afternoon. Qunli on the other end of the phone simply exchanged a few words with Hei-Yu, and then brought up the business of this call. Hei-Yu, I also received your news in Chinjua City. I didn't expect you to become a junior breeder. It seems that you are really talented in this area. I was right about you at the beginning. You are not a mud shrimp in the pond, but a potential dragon. As time went by, Hei-Yu's news was naturally publicized by the Breeder Guild of Kana City. Some ordinary trainers may not care, but league officials like Mr. Qunli are very concerned. He had memorized Hei-Yu's face long ago. Although Hei-Yu was a little happy when he heard Mr. Qunli's praise, he was still humble on the surface. No, Mr. Qunli, you are too kind. It was you who discovered this rough diamond in my eyes, otherwise I would have been buried in the crowd. Hei-Yu would not be too modest and devalue himself. He would not be arrogant and leave a bad impression on Mr. Qunli. It must be said that Hei-Yu is a master in the art of language. In just a few words, he neither belittled himself nor praised Qunli. Qunli was pleased to hear it. Haha, I'm glad that you have such an opinion, Hei-Yu. After a brief exchange, Qunli finally put away his smile and said solemnly, I came here this time to discuss investment with you. According to the evaluation of our gym professionals, we will increase your investment. The annual training funds will be increased from the original 500,000 to 1.5 million. In addition, there is also the right to choose a skill disc. When Hei-Yu heard this, he smiled appropriately and his eyes were shining. Thank you Mr. Qunli for your attention. Hey, you also expected the increase in investment in Chinju Gym. After all, the amount of investment by the Joey family was too large. This is certainly due to the family's own wealth, but more importantly, it is due to Heiyu's outstanding talent as a trainer. In this case, how could Chinju Gym, which invested first, remain indifferent? After a brief exchange, Heiyu said goodbye to Mr. Qunli on the other end of the phone, and hung up the phone with Xiao Ao's reluctant expression. I collapsed on the bed and looked up at the ceiling. I didn't expect that. I just mentioned it casually. Qian Lithe gentleman actually agreed to give him a skill disc for Pray for Rain. Heiyu murmured unconsciously, and the smile on his lips could no longer be suppressed, rising wildly. You know, even the wealthy Joey family was not willing to invest in similar skill discs for him. The most expensive skill discs are undoubtedly the amplification skills such as Sword Dance and Dragon Dance, as well as the field space skills, such as Green Grass Field and Spirit Field. Another category is weather-related moves such as Pray for Rain, Sunny Day and Sandstorm. Skill discs like these are often the most precious, and even in the black market they are worth millions, and there is no market for them. Even if you wave the alliance coin in your hand, you can't buy them at all. Heiyu guessed in his heart that his relationship with Xiao Ao was probably part of the reason. It's true that I have a good relationship with Xiao Ao. Mr. Qunli is really a daughter control. Heiyu thought with evil humor in his heart. Heiyu got up and prepared dinner for several Pokémons, then he got up and went to the Pokémon restaurant to eat. Today he did not order the free meal as before, although those meals were also nutritionally balanced, but he was obviously in a good mood today. Give me a fish burger, a bowl of curry meat sauce noodles, and a bottle of delicious soda. Heiyu sat happily at the dining table, enjoying the delicious food while eliminating the fatigue of going to the black market today. Of course, it was not physical fatigue. Walking in a place like the black market, the mind was tense the whole time, and it was indeed tiring. Heiyu also knew that whether it was training or life, you had to relax and stretch. If you stretched yourself like a string, sooner or later it would break. Sure enough, the illustration on Heiyu's waist suddenly made a sound while he was still eating. An electronic contract was received on the Pokémon illustration. After Heiyu had a simple look and found no problem, he decisively signed it. The next day, the skill disc of Pray for Rain was delivered to Heiyu. Iron Claw Lobster, you are blessed. Heiyu couldn't imagine how powerful the Crab Claw Hammer would be after the Iron Claw Lobster performed a Dragon Dance. Dragon Dance and Rainy Day bonus and Adaptability and Original bonus and Mysterious Water Drop. Add to that the Crab Claw Hammer with a full 100 power. And the Crab Claw Hammer has a built-in probability of hitting the vital point. If this attack is a critical hit, the power of the Crab Claw Hammer with so much power is unimaginable. Heiyu looked at the majestic Iron Claw Lobster and began to look forward to that day in his heart. Chapter 74. In the battlefield in the backyard of the Pokémon Center, Black Feather was fighting with another trainer at this moment. The wonderful battle has come to an end, and the people watching around are holding their breath, looking forward to who will be the winner of this battle. Dark Crow, use wings to attack. At Black Feather's command, Dark Crow, which was already blessed by the tailwind, showed extreme speed. Black Feather flapped his wings and dived down instantly. Strong Chicken, don't be afraid of it using the Sky Punch. Another trainer in exquisite clothes shouted passionately. Strong Chicken stepped on the chicken claws under his feet and jumped several meters high in an instant. With an uppercut, he rushed straight to Dark Crow. The few breezes surrounding Dark Crow's body surface entered his body again, and with the blessing of the tailwind, a black shadow dived down. The attack of wings and Sky Punch. Bang! A dull explosion sounded in the middle of the field. In the midst of the dust and smoke, everyone waited for the smoke to see the figure clearly. Murkrow barely flapped its injured wings and fluttered in the air. But the strong chicken had been attacked by this restrained wing, and was knocked unconscious and lost the ability to fight. Hiss! The onlookers took a breath of cold air instantly. They looked at the Murkrow in the center of the field and the Black Feather behind him with amazement. This is the 7th battle, right? Murkrow has won 7 consecutive games. The physical strength consumed by fighting 6 games in a row has made Murkrow exhausted, and he actually defeated the 3 starters again. You all think it's Murkrow's credit? In my opinion, the trainer who commanded is really amazing. The control of the timing of the whole battle is exquisite. Everyone around was talking about the wonderful battle just now. It was the first time they saw such a powerful Murkrow. Especially after using Tailwind, the speed is ridiculously fast, and the key is that you can't stop the opponent from using it. Because the Tailwind of Murkrow's moves is too fast. Even if you can get close to it for close combat, the protective shield that appears instantly will completely cut off your hope of victory. The trainer with the strong chicken Pokémon took it back into the Pokeball with reluctance on his face, and just wanted to ask the Murkrow trainer who defeated him for advice. But he found that there was no one on the opposite field. At this time, Yu had returned to the lobby of the Pokémon Center and handed the Pokeball containing Murkrow to Joy Chun. "Sister Xiao Chun, please help me." Yu looked at this familiar face and asked for help. When Joy Chun heard the voice, he immediately put down the business he was handling, ignored the Pokémon of other trainers, and quickly took the Pokeball. "Don't worry, Kuroyu, leave it to me." Joey Chun casually pointed to a nurse, handed over his front desk work to the other party, and turned to enter the medical room to check Kuroyu's Murkrow. The trainers who were queuing around looked at Kuroyu with envy. In their hearts, they thought, "Damn, which big family's child has come out again?" Kuroyu's privileges naturally caused dissatisfaction among some people, but they didn't dare to say anything. In the face of the unbreakable system established by the Alliance, no one dared to resist. Beep beep beep. A burst of treatment sounds sounded. Kuroyu took the Murkrow's Pokeball from Joy Chun's pink little hands. "Sister Xiao Chun, please cancel my room." Kuroyu suddenly said this. The smile on Joy Chun's face froze instantly, and even her hands trembled unconsciously. Looking up, he asked in disbelief, "Are you leaving Kana's city?" Yu didn't intend to hide it, so he nodded and said, "I have gained a lot here, and I will go to the next travel destination soon, so there is no need to stay here." Joey Chun bit her thin lips with her pearly teeth, and asked unwillingly, "Is there nothing here that makes you miss it?" Her words seemed to have a meaning, and she looked up at Yu unwillingly. These days, the two often discussed knowledge about cultivation, and their feelings were heating up rapidly. It's a pity that Yu didn't care about these young people's love. Joey Chun seemed to have seen this, so he didn't get too entangled, but when the day of separation came, he couldn't help feeling a little sad. Yu stared at Joey Chun for a long time without saying a word. In the end, she checked out, and when she handed Yu's ID card back to him, she held the card tightly with her little hands, unwilling to let go. "Remember to come back and see me. I'll wait for you to discuss cultivation knowledge together." Joey Chun lowered his head and murmured softly. Black Yu walked straight out of the door of the Pokémon Center, raised his right hand and waved, disappearing in the crowd. In the next few days, the trainers in Kana's city discovered that Miss Joy of the Pokémon Center had actually asked for 3 days off. This seemed incredible to Miss Joy, who was enthusiastic and conscientious at work. When Joy Chun returned to work, the smile on her face seemed to have decreased a lot, and she just stared at the signature on a book from time to time. There was a certain inexplicable color in her eyes. Whenever someone approached and tried to see the signature, they would be scolded and driven away by Miss Joy. What exactly was the content of the signature that Miss Joy was looking at became a question discussed by many trainers in Kana's city. At night, in a pink room full of girlish atmosphere, Joy Chun lay on the table, silently looking at the signature. Under the light, the signature gradually emerged with colorful words, and 2 simple words slowly emerged. Black Feather. In the trainer school, there is an office filled with a strong bookish atmosphere. Du-Wan sat quietly at her desk, staring at the illustrated book in her hand, her eyes lingering on a message on the screen, unable to come back to her senses for a long time. It was not until Grandpa Mutuo beside her coughed lightly to remind her to pay attention that she woke up from her meditation. "Little Du-Wan, what's wrong with you today? You look uneasy." Grandpa Mutuo asked gently. He is Du-Wan's teacher and the former owner of the Kana's gym. He knows Du-Wan's personality and behavior habits very well. Mutuo barely supported his body by leaning on the armchair, and then slowly and staggered towards the bookshelf next to him. Du-Wan slowly closed the illustrated book, stood up, walked towards Grandpa Mutuo, and after standing still, he bowed deeply to Grandpa Mutuo, solemnly completing a teacher-student etiquette. "Grandpa Mutuo, I also want to be a decisive person. Please teach me." Du-Wan's voice was firm and serious. She seemed to have made up her mind to change herself. Her eyes no longer flashed with the gentleness and dignity of the past. Instead, they were replaced by a kind of firmness and courage. It was as if a switch deep in her heart was turned on. Chapter 75. The Kalu Tunnel connects the road from Kana City to Green Town, and with the last time the ocean team and the lava team made a fuss in the Kalu tunnel. Now the Kalu tunnel has been completely controlled by the authorities. Yu looked at the fenced road in front of him, and the well-equipped armed personnel around him, with dog Pokémons such as Thunder Beast, Little York, and Alubi beside them. Occasionally, there were one or two heroic-looking Miss Junsha, followed by a Caterpie. The other police officers showed a hint of envy in their eyes. It seems that we can only cross the mountains and take a detour. Yu jumped off the off-road bicycle he was riding, folded it back into the space backpack, and looked at the fenced road helplessly. Walking in the bamboo forest, Yu looked up to the northeast, the mountain that towered into the clouds. Chimney Mountain. Going a little further, as long as you cross this forest, you will reach Greentown. To the northeast of Greentown is the most famous mountain in the entire Hone region, Chimney Mountain. The closer Yu gets to Greentown, the more he can feel the freshness in the air. Although it is close to a volcano, there is no smell of volcanic ash. It seems that because of the wind direction, volcanic ash never drifts into Greentown. Greentown, which is famous for its refreshing fresh air, is very suitable for some empty nest elderly people to live in. Therefore, it has been loved by a large number of wealthy people who have come to live in it. Some weak patients will also come to Greentown for recuperation. Yu looked at the town not far away, and his steps became lighter and lighter. A black crow hovered above his head, looking around vigilantly, as if escorting someone. As night fell, Yu decided not to take the risk of rushing on the road, but to camp outside the forest. Iron Claw Lobster, please take care of my shoes. Remember to clean them with foam. Megalodon, go to the creek and catch 2 fish. The compressed biscuits are too unpalatable. Yu commanded Murkrow to patrol nearby, and Eevee helped him to set up the tent. Assisting each other with the Pokémons in such daily chores can effectively enhance the bond between each other. Hey! Yu casually picked up a handful of flammable dead branches and leaves, piled them together, and then took out the flammable wood and disposable fire from his backpack. With the bonfire, a warm feeling spread throughout the body. The temperature in the forest at night is still very low. If you don't pay attention to keeping warm, you may catch a cold. Although Yu has experienced the torture of severe weather on the sea, he doesn't want to get sick for nothing. Sitting by the bonfire, curled up and warmed himself. Eevee imitated Yu's appearance and slowly moved his hand closer to the fire. Who knew that a tuft of hair on his hand would catch fire? Yu turned the rotating shaft of the grill and turned over the fish that Megalodon had just caught. The sizzling sound of oil attracted the attention of the little Eevee. Yu took out a bag of all-purpose seasoning, picked up a small handful, and slowly sprinkled it. Accompanied by a strong smell of grilled fish, Yu couldn't help licking his lips. While eating the fragrant grilled fish, Yu flipped through the news in the Pokémon Encyclopedia, checking today's city news, regional news, and even world news. Oh my god, the Dragon Master of the Kanto region, Du, failed in the 5th challenge to the Championship Challenge, and was defeated by the Ice King Kona again. Yu watched with relish and was amazed. The Championship Challenge is currently the highest level and highest standard official competition in the history of the Pokémon League. As long as the challenge is successful, you can become the champion of a region, and your status is equal to that of the regional chairman. The challenge process is also very simple. You only need to challenge the 4 kings of the region in turn and defeat them all. The premise is that you cannot enter the rest stage in the middle, and you need to defeat the main 6 of the 4 kings in one go. Only one Pokémon. From this, we can see how difficult it is. And the Dragon Master, Du, will fall to the last king, Kona, every time he challenges. After all, the 2 thorny shells in the opponent's hand, after breaking the shell, plus the characteristics of continuous attack, and then carrying the momentum belt prop. The increase brought by breaking the shell, plus the fault tolerance of the momentum belt. The 5-shot ice cone and rock critical hits made the Dragon Master cry for his parents. Breaking the shell, regardless of your own defense, reducing your physical defense and special defense, but greatly improving your attack, special attack, and speed. Continuous attack, when performing continuous moves, you can always use the highest number of times. Momentum belt, after carrying it, even if you are hit by a move that may cause near death, you can sometimes hold on with only 1 drop of blood. At night, Yu got into the tent, slept in the sleeping bag, and looked through the Championship Challenge video in the illustration book. I tried to learn from it, but every time I saw those funny comments, I couldn't help laughing. It's so funny. Yolongdu was still smiling when he failed for the first time, but he stopped laughing the second time, and he was expressionless after the third time. Bah, what Yolongdu, it really brings shame to the Yulong family. All the Pokémons are flying. It's so funny. When the countless rock crits and ice cones of the thorn shell appeared, the cute expression of Dragonite was distorted. Yolongdu might as well come to our Johto region. The strength of the Kanto region is simply not something that people can pass. Last time I challenged a gym, a king Pokémon jumped out directly. To be honest, the gym masters in the Kanto region are all at the king level on average. Hey Yu shook his head with a smile. He was really right by the audience in the comment above. In the future, Yolongdu did serve as the acting champion of both the Kanto and Johto regions. Black Feather shouted to the Murkrows outside, Murkrow, please keep watch tonight. Ga. The Murkrow responded with a hoarse cry. For Murkrows, the night is their main battlefield, and Murkrows actually enjoy this environment more at night.